B-Bad and Brandon.
That was us.
Yeah, the tricky bit is, boys, I started recording a while ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, welcome!
Yeah, I expect that.
To the Platform Podcast. So what do we got here, boys? Platform Podcast Wine Edition.
Wine edition.
Brought to you by Ian Harvey. Taking us on a journey.
A journey through wine. So we're having
Don't forget your microphone.
There we go. Yeah, so we're having a St Henry 2010 Shiraz, possibly one of the best St Henrys on record, or one of the best couple anyway. And so we're going to have a try of that.
What did it score?
Variously. Well, it was 100 out of... Some people gave it 100 out of 100. When it was released in 2014, it sold out in a matter of hours, as in when it got the reviews. I bought it before, before it was actually not released, but became very popular, and bought a few cartons. So it's a really nice one. And St Henry's is a bit different to the other ones because it's not actually oaked, hasn't got new oak. It's they just put in old barrels, so it's really doesn't have that oaking that some of the other ones do. And I remember buying St Henry and Grange when I was in the army. 1997, used to go to the Victoria Barracks mess, and it used to cost me $8 a bottle for St Henry, and cost me $12 a bottle for Grange.
Government subsidised.
Yeah, well, it was tax subsidised, but it was also cheap in those days. So it might have been double to the general public. It might have cost double or even triple, but it's still really cheap compared to what because Grange obviously is about $500, $600, $700
a bottle now.
Yeah,
and it was $12.
$12 I paid, and I bought several. There's back 1970, 1971 vintage, and 74 vintage.
I think you need a glass too, young man. So you've got some of yours. Good. Cheers, thank you.
I'll just have a little bit. I should try some.
Yeah. You got it.
Cheers, but I thought we'd get started with a nice. Pete loves Shiraz.
2010, eh? This is beautiful.
Cheers.
Sorry,
you
got a coffee there.
Sorry, old Pete. Oh no, young Pete.
Young Pete. So so a nice one to start off with, a nice Penfolds Shiraz.
Damn.
And they source, like the Grange, they source it from different areas. Mm-hmm. Some of the Penfolds only have one area. McGill Estate have one area, and RW2 do one area, but this is sourced all over, and they get the best of the grapes.
Australia-wise?
No, mainly Barossa, McLaren Vale,
McLaren Vale, where's that?
Adelaide Hills.
I've been there.
Adelaide too, at Nationals, or you'll be able to go or take you through McLaren Vale.
Yeah, McLaren Vale's nice.
Yeah.
So we need to plan a week in the Nationals.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, man, Nationals not just
because we're going up. We're going up to some wineries. Yeah.
We're going shark diving.
Oh no, you're going shark diving.
We're going shark diving.
White 100%. Pointers, they get in the cage. Just look at YouTube, Go to YouTube and watch, diving with sharks. The sharks come into the cage sometimes,
I can't wait. Yeah. I think we'll do one tiny bit of introduction to the show. And I am privileged enough for you three to cross over in the gym every Tuesday, essentially. And then the idea came, you guys talk shit literally every Tuesday afternoon.
We do a little bit, yes.
In some regards, depending on who crosses over. Sometimes the trio happens, and that's always a little tricky for myself and Jamie because not a lot of training's going on at that point in time, and we're trying to marshal your way. But I thought, why not get a microphone in there, and then if I got the right amount of wine to story ratio, we'd get a little looser lips from Mr. Harvey here and Pete, old Pete now, to find out some more content.
I've said everything. I've said it. I'm juiced. I'm completely juiced.
2%.
No, but I haven't started digging yet.
Yeah, exactly right.
All that needs to be told now is stuff that puts me in jail. So I'm not keen to sort of elaborate. But what's this army? I'm no army. You're no army.
What's this army? What's this army?
What's this army?
So I was talking to Pete because Pete is you're ex-army, aren't you? Yeah.
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah, and so you've had a much longer and more stellar career than I had in the army.
Well, call it stellar. I'd call it just a great career.
Yeah,
but,
so you were career army, whereas I was only in it for about. I had a scholarship, and I was only in it for about 6 years all up. Yeah.
And if I'm right, you boys were almost in similar locations at one point or another?
Yeah, certainly at Enoggera.
Yeah.
Back in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah. That's right. I was back at Enoggera, 82, 83, and out 84, and I was in Townsville 80 and New Guinea 81.
Sure. And you were working in the dental unit, so I imagine you would have been there when I had my 4 molars removed.
I could have done it. And you're still, but although you're still alive and not in peace, not impaired, can you talk all right? Yeah.
Well, yes, but on the day it happened, they ripped 4 molars out of my head in one hit. Yeah. And wasn't even meant to get molars taken out that particular day.
They just decided that molars were going.
That's right.
It's a practice thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got to practice on someone.
I turned up for my annual dental check.
Yep.
And it was a young female lieutenant actually, and she just said, "Well, you're here. I've got spare afternoon. I see you have all your molars, and
let's take them out.
Let's take them out." And apparently, back in those days, and correct me if I was wrong, but that seemed to be the army way of doing business.
Yeah.
If you had molars, they were going to come out anyway.
Which one's a molar?
Last one at the end.
Wisdom teeth or third molars.
Oh, the wisdom teeth.
Yeah, because they often give problems.
Not much wisdom in those teeth.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, the smart idea was, remove them. So then, of course, if you're out in the field or overseas on deployment, you're not going to get removed with dental issues. So, and so she said, well, we'll just take them out now. And so she did. And she ripped them out of my head, and it was just dreadful.
Were you knocked out?
No.
Just
local. and just that, as everyone recounts horror stories of dental getting done, it was just the loosening of the tooth, how it separates from the jawbone. It was the cracking, it was the groaning, it was the straining. And this poor lady, because she had to get all the leverage, so she was ended up kneeling on me in the chair just so she can actually start whatever that knurled, thingy was to get between your teeth just to try and lever it up.
Yeah. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, it's called an elevator.
So she was elevating, she was elevating everything.
She elevated your teeth.
And then she slipped as she's getting one of the teeth out. And luckily she held it correct, because then what happened was it went to the back of my throat. It was just her fist that hit my face, which stopped it going any further. And she said, "Oh, sorry about that." And I'm just in agony. And anyway, removed the 4 teeth. She put stitches in, and then she gave me a chip for 3 days off. And I thought, hallelujah, 3 days off. This is going to be gravy. But I was in agony. So anyway, I went back to our accommodation. They call it the lines in the military. Back to the lines. Spent the night, just in all sorts of pain. Next morning, I reported to our platoon sergeant to say, I've been given 3 days bed rest because I've just had my wisdom teeth removed. And he just got my little, because you have a little chit, it's just like a little handwritten note.
Yeah.
And he just ripped it up. He said, "Bullshit." He said, "I'll give you 1 day. See you tomorrow." I went, "Sure. No worries, Sergeant." So I went back to my room, and I was just laying there all day. And, my face
blood.
Blood, everything. Next day I turned up to work, and he looked at me again up and down. He goes, "Yeah, you are crook, aren't you? Piss off. See you in 2 days' time." Thanks.
You still had to get out of bed, still drag yourself in uniform down there.
But that's how army was, no quarter given.
And that's what you were doing in the army.
Yeah. Although I would have hopefully had a little bit more finesse.
You didn't use the hand as a gauge. You've gone too far into the mouth.
You can section. You don't have to use brute force if you can do it intelligently and cut them. You section them, cut them up, and they come out quite straightforward.
Right. It was a struggle. And maybe I was just willing not to come out either. Taking it without
perhaps using a different technique.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, it's like anything. You eventually you refine your techniques so that things. It doesn't seem like it's an effort. People say, "Oh wow, that was quick." Yeah.
Damn, there's no way I'd want to be knocked out if I get wisdom teeth out.
But I think
4 of them
nowadays.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of people go to hospital. In the later part of when I did dentistry, I did hospital work a lot for people who didn't want to be in the surgery. But we used to do a lot in the surgery too. And if you're gentle and have a good technique, you can quite comfortably do it there. But some people just don't want to be aware.
Yeah. Sure, yes, that's right.
I definitely don't want to be aware.
No, well, it's like when I had my vasectomy, same thing.
You were aware.
I was well aware. I was watching it.
You were watching it?
Yeah, because the doctor asked me. He said, "Would you like to watch it?" Because it was a slow day, and I was supposed
slow for you as well, or just him?
Is this the army as well?
No, this was not the army.
Oh, I thought, boy, they do the whole lot, don't they? They deal with
a local veterinarian.
Okay,
it was down the Hunter Valley, and I was posted to Singleton, and so my wife and I chatted. We had 2 great kids, and we thought, well, no more, and so I volunteered to go get the vasectomy. And so I ended up to the local clinic, the hospital, and the doctor said, slow day. He said, "I'm doing nothing," because it's just a little country town. He said, "You're here for a vasectomy." He said, "But would you like to watch it?" And I said, "Well, how are we going to do that?" And he said, "Well, I'll give you a local, and then I'll just pull everything through the the prepped area. He said, then I can winch you half sitting up and you can then just watch the operation. And I said, that sounds awesome. He was a doctor. And so anyway, so we did that. And he said, well, this is a bit weird. He said, I might, I'm going to have to inject your scrotum. And I said, oh, you're okay. So we did that, and it was like a bit of a tingle.
Yeah.
And after, he said, we'll give it 4 or 5 minutes. And then, so about that time, he didn't quite check to see if everything was dead. And he said, I'll just start cutting. Here's the incisions I'll make. And so he made the first incision.
He talked you through it. Yeah,
and I said, I can feel really, really, sharp. It's burning. It's really... And he said, we'll just wait a bit longer then. Yeah. He said, thanks for telling me. So I had a small cut. But anyway, he did the whole operation. And it was immaculate because he said normally when people are knocked out, he said, I can kneel on them, I can tug things, I can yank things out.
Tug things.
Yeah, do the double granny knot. Things are right. And so with me, he said, I have to take this very carefully because you're watching me. But he's talking me through the whole procedure and it was fascinating. And at the end, he said, you'll have no swelling. He said, you wouldn't even be sore tomorrow. And true to his word, I woke up the next day, good as gold.
Ready to go again.
Good technique.
Yeah, and it was because he said, I had to be careful. Yeah, brilliant.
A little trick for the kids at home. A friend of mine got his cousin had it done some years ago. Mm-hmm. He got his receptionist to ring him and say, look, I'm so-and-so from the doctor's surgery. We need a fresh sample of sperm because of the legalities now to see whether, we'll test it. So can you bring it in a Vegemite jar and put it in the reception thing? And of course, you imagine, it was just a bogus thing because he then had to, he's all, quite anxious about the procedure. So he's then got to collect a specimen from himself.
In a Vegemite jar.
Half an hour before he's got to try and get himself excited enough to give a specimen. He said it was the hardest thing he'd ever done. And then he comes into the surgery, the doctor's surgery, and says, I've got the specimen. And they look at each other. He said, the one you wanted me. And he has this little sperm sample in the Vegemite jar. And they started laughing. He thought, you bastard, he knew who it was.
They stitched him up.
Yeah. This mate of mine who was his cousin stitched him up, yeah. But there was another guy, I better be careful of legal things, but he did a lot of vasectomies. This is some years back. And, it's the sort of one that has the count, so far Dr. So-and-so has done, 18,465, crossed out 6, it sort of goes up every day. And so the receptionist or his nurse was a sister of someone who was of a rep of ours, and so she said he reuses his scalpel blades 5 to 6 times. So you hopefully you're the first one who gets the sharp blade. Otherwise, you'd be sitting there sort of
soaring.
So because the scalpel blades do get dull. We talk about wisdom teeth. I'd often use more than one scalpel blade, taking out a set, and so he just give him a quick wash. Sterile. This is back in the days, I think, prior.
Just give it a rinse
to HIV and things like that. Just give it a rinse and away you
go.
Yeah.
Well, you save money.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
But that's a bit fucking dodgy. The thing I enjoy is that you two boys went to school together.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy.
We didn't find that out until...
Then the three of you end up in the same fucking gym together.
Yeah.
Later. I was going to say, we need to get some timeline here. So
70... I finished 71, was it? What was your...
1871, was it?
No. We had a 19 in front of it. What was your... When did you? 73?
70 to 74. No, 70 to 74.
Oh, okay.
So I left in 74, and so you left in... Did you leave in 71?
I thought so. I don't know. I'm not good with dates.
I left 74, so 70 to 74. Yeah.
So in your peerage then, how many people of note have moved on with massive things in their lives?
Oh yeah, they all do. I went to the 50th reunion just this year, last year, 2021, and they're all still the same people in my mind. But
you went to 50th reunion.
Yeah, 50th reunion. Wow. Yeah. I saw Kelly there. Kelly works at Grammar, and so she was on the door. And it was quite funny. We'd just been training together, Kelly from the gym, and she also works at Grammar, and she greeted me. Oh, this is pretty cool. But Yeah, and so you sit down, and I don't recognise anyone. You know, a lot of them, I don't know, maybe my face hasn't changed that much, but a lot of them recognise me. But yeah, and you're sitting down and talking to this guy about the Gap bus and going home on the bus, and his brother coming down the creek with us in the flooded creek and all that. Well, he's actually a Supreme Court judge. Of course. And here he is, but you didn't relate to him as a Supreme Court judge. You related him as that guy that was on the bus, you know, when you were growing up, Larrick, and going with his brother out to. He didn't even know that his brother had gone down the creek with us. You know, he said, "I didn't even know about that." You know, but yeah, we jumped into flooded creeks and just to see where it would all end up. It was pretty crazy, you know. I lost a dog there. A dog drowned in the creek. But we used to wait for because the Inogra, no, it's a long way away from your barracks, but the Inogra Creek when the
74 floods.
Yeah, 74 floods. Yeah. When it burst, it was just a torrent down the creek, and we loved it. And
what creek was that?
I don't know where it. Inogra Creek, probably, is it?
Inogra Creek.
Yeah. And it feeds the Inogra Reserve.
But it went the Gap and past Ashgrove.
But we'd often go swimming down the creek. It was pretty good.
But Creek and Inogra Creek, they were two different.
Yeah.
Ithaca Creek ran more towards Barden, where Inogra Creek ran more towards Marist, the Ashgrove.
But this is like in the 74. It was just like a torrent, and we didn't know. We
were swimming in it.
We didn't swim it. We went down with floaties. Each of us jumped in a floaty, and we'd all thought we'd all go down together. Well, we jumped in, and the tides or the currents are running at different rates, so we jumped in together, and then everyone disappeared because everyone is on a different torrent, you know, and suddenly you're on your own. There's you and your whitewater, and there's no getting out of it. You just had to go for it. And so,
how far down did you get?
Well, you just go until you get to a quiet patch where you can get over. But you know, as we'd come along, and I'd look in front, and I saw this line. I thought that's really where, you know, because we'd been going through, you know, torrent after, you know, crashing through, and then there's just this line. You think, well, I wonder what that is. It was a waterfall. It was going straight over this cliff. What? And so we came along to it, and that's what it was. This line was actually a waterfall. So we got through that, and then as we're coming along, then it's going under a bridge. And you realise that the water and the bridge, and how much room you got. But anyway, we got through it all right. And I went down that with the Supreme Court judge's brother, and he knew nothing about it, you know. So it was just quite a. But
is that creek still a creek?
Yeah, it's still a thing. Yeah, we lost one of the guys. You know, my brother called us all over. You know, he stopped on the side and called us all over, and we all came over. And then my mate's board goes driving past and no sign of him.
Oh dear.
And it was my sister's boyfriend, and so we're running back up the creek looking for him, and we find him right out in the middle of in the creek on a bent over sapling, and he's just perched up there, you know, in the middle. So his board had gone up, and then the board had picked, you know, just shot out and leaving him on this, you know, bent over sapling. So. Oh, it's crazy stuff.
You didn't, being the sister's boyfriend, you didn't help him off his board?
No, luckily my brother was just he's not a brave guy, but he's crazy. He just jumped in and went past him, and he jumped off into the thing. But dude, that was it was terrific fun, but crazy, you know. We got into that predicament. We all went down and we got pinned against the barbed wire fence. That was the first thing we did. What? We were walking across and we got swept off our feet and straight into a barbed wire fence. And we were just stuck there, and you couldn't slide.
No, because
you were
on
the barbed wire fence, and you got the pressure of the water behind you. We were just stuck there. We were there probably about 20 minutes or something, you know, just stuck against that fence.
And how'd you extract yourself?
The Supreme Court's brother eventually got out, and then he managed to sort of pull us all out as well.
How are you still breathing?
It's crazy, you know. And I never told my kids any of these stories because I never wanted.
That didn't bring inspiration.
They actually just went on to computer games and shot each other virtually, but we actually did that stuff for real, you know. And it was just madness, you know. But we survived it, you know. My poor puppy didn't. It fell off a lot. We went across these series of logs, fell into the left-hand side where the water was. and then went down to try and get under, and there was no getting under,
No more puppy.
Pretty sad. I don't think I went down the creek after that. I think that was my
you pushed it back. You pushed it far enough.
Yeah, so if we had have slipped off there, the same thing would have happened. So it was a real lesson.
Were you floating around in Brisbane in 74 floats?
Trying to think what I was doing.
You would have just finished high school.
Yeah, we would have just finished high school, and so I actually I just finished high school, and then I used to do archery. Archery as in like hunting archery sort of thing, and so I was a bit too
like animals. People.
yeah, sort of things. I had a hunting bow. Yeah, to hunt pigs and things. But I used to use the hunting bow and shoot light target arrows in the backyard. And I actually shot myself through the hand with an arrow.
What?
In December.
How do you shoot yourself through the hand?
So if you have
through the foot, maybe.
Have a look at my hand.
Yep.
See a little scar.
Where was your hand? Your hand over the arrow like this as you're pulling back.
You're holding the bow like this.
Yeah.
And you go back, and then when you release it, the arrow flexes. So the back, it broke. The front half shot off, and the back half went through my. It went in there and went under my knuckle.
Came
out of my
finger
there.
Shit.
So that scar is from an arrow.
And it went through.
Yeah, and it went through straight through.
So the broken shaft.
The broken shaft was really sharp. So and it was very light, broken shaft. So front part went off, which went boom straight through. So there's feathers there. And there's a little sticky out thing there. And my brother-in-law drove me to Royal Brisbane we lived at Aspley, Castledine Aspley, and we were about 10 minutes in his FJ Holden, and they looked at us and they called us Broken Arrow, and they said, "What are we going to do with you, Broken Arrow?" And so they just ended up after a lot of to do, they pulled it straight out. They
just pulled it through.
And a regional anaesthetic, like a local block, and they said. We couldn't have done it if we had tried to put the arrow through ourselves. We would have been flat out not damaging things.
Because of course you're doing surgery afterwards as a dentist. So
I was just starting dentistry. So and
so it missed everything that mattered.
Yeah, and also I fortunately played the piano for many years, and so the piano was a really good way of getting my hand back into
He's full of it, isn't he?
And with any traumatic injury,
he just keeps rolling.
At what point did you feel the pain? Because obviously at first you would have looked at it, went
play the piano, archery, dentistry.
It's just like a
vasectomies, molars, New Guinea, pilot.
At what point did you think, oh fuck?
It's like someone. A lot of those things happen. It's when people get their fingers cut off and things. It feels like.
Or you cut them off for them.
A bang. So this was just like a boom. And then you have this sense of disbelief because you see...
That's right, you're looking at it.
Yeah,
we got a problem.
My wife's warned me of language, but you do say, fuck. Sorry, Helen. And you think... And it's the disbelief that you've shot this thing through your hand.
Particularly because it shouldn't.
No.
In theory.
In theory, this shouldn't happen.
You can't shoot yourself in your hand. I'm sorry. You're the only one in history that has done that, I'd say.
I'm pretty sure I've got it somewhere, the arrow. I kept
You've
the arrow.
still got it?
Yeah, still got it.
You should. Yeah.
And it's still got a little bit of blood in the shaft.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was brother-in-law, we were shooting together, but just doing like a bit of target practice and things like that. And so a salient lesson, though, when you've got a hunting bow, don't spend the money and put either a really decent arrow, sufficient spine in the arrow. Well, it had fiberglass, they had aluminium, wood, but wood that's got to be really quite thick down.
Or a metal glove or something.
Yeah, a little like the butcher's thing that they.
The butcher's glove.
Did you go on to hunt with that bow? Did you end up hunting animals?
I didn't do a lot of.
So you said bow hunting's meant to be tricky.
Yeah. I didn't do a lot of archery after that because I suppose it's just one of those stages in life that you move on from. So so I've got to say that after that, it wasn't that I was sort of gun shy or bow shy, but I just moved on to other
firearms.
I did get firearms eventually, but I think I was already getting firearms then. So yeah. So I thought I was going to have an accident. I'd have it big time, not just little time. But no.
Were you an avid shooter at all? Coming from a military background yourself?
Yeah, as a kid, my brother and I certainly loved shooting, and Mum and Dad, I guess you can say they encouraged it because we lived on a property out at Capalaba, so we had about 11.5 acres. And
that statement doesn't ring true anymore, does it?
No,
I live on a property in Capalaba.
I know, yeah, gosh. And it was just great. And it's funny those things where, as a kid, you don't appreciate what you had until you're an adult. And we had 11.5 acres of bushland that all sort of, we had a creek right through the guts of it called Coolwimpin Creek. And so anything that we did with firearms, we'd fire into the creek line. So, of course, no bullets would be sort of ricocheting out or going, in other properties.
Yeah.
And so we essentially had just small 22s.
Yep.
But our weapons of choice back then were just air rifles. But then we'd worked out, because my dad was a mechanic in the army, and so we worked out how to increase the volume of air.
Yep.
Yeah, and how to make it, turn it into probably a 22, actually. And these slugs, they'd come out at a great rate. But we were very good at it, my brother and I, because we just buy, we'd spend all our pocket money on getting the little, I don't know what calibre it was anymore, .144 or something.
177.
177, something like that. Yeah.
Or 22.
And then we'd just be running around.
He knows all this stuff.
Shooting everything. But to the point where we'd be, we call it patrolling, but going through the grass around our property, and any locust that would pop up, it was just like quail hunting.
Oh, lovely.
And we'd crack them on the fly. Yeah. Really poor at first, but wind the clock forward 2 or 3 years.
Then you
were pinging them left, right, and centre, because essentially locusts would fly generally straight.
Yep.
And so once you pick them up that first couple of seconds, just like shooting clay pigeons.
Yeah, you got the tracking.
That's right. And we got that really, we got quite good at it. And then, of course, that translated across to the military.
And so on range days, you would have been a bit of a star on range days.
Well, I was. I was quite a good shot. In fact, they call it a first-class shot. Yeah. What that means is, I guess sniping is the pinnacle. So if you're a first-class shot, you're one level below a sniper.
Yep.
And all that means is you can shoot the same targetry out to the same distances, but you just need to get your skills up with field craft and target detection and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
I was getting trained to become a sniper, but I just didn't like the concept. And it was more to do, nowadays it's a whole different setup. Snipers on the battlefield are battlefield commentators, so they'll actually tee in directly to commanders and talk about what's occurring on the battlefield.
Because they've got an overview.
Correct, yes. And they call that Overwatch. So they have Overwatch, and of course they have the ability to call in all sorts of airstrikes and everything else.
Yep.
And it's a great skill set. And also they have to then shoot particular targets on occasion. Back when we were doing it in the 80s, a similar concept, but you weren't required to do any sort of battlefield commentary. It was more to do with you going out on a task, you sit there, you observe a village, almost like Vietnam style, where you then, a local village elder has turned, you need to go and eliminate. And so that was the idea. But more importantly, you used to construct hide. So whether that was underground or above ground, the fact was you had to have camouflage, and I became a number 2 in the sniper cell. So a number 2 was like the gun bearer. Just think of it like that. So the sniper would walk behind you, resting, as they always said, I'm resting. And so you'd carry his weapon, which was, and it was a bolt-action weapon, and, still maybe 5 to 8 kilos.
Still. Your
own weapon. You're doing the navigation, you're patrolling. And then as you then construct the hide, well, the sniper, I'm still resting. So,
he's got it.
Why are they
He's a high-level athlete. He's got to.
Why are they resting?
Premium state.
Precisely. Because he's the
They
guy.
wouldn't take the piss.
No.
There's some status right there,
that's
isn't
right.
there?
He's the guy that would take the shot. So anyway, you'd prepare it, but he would assist as well, but you'd do the lion's share. And then when it come to then observing a village or observing a intersection or a meeting point, whether it's in an urban environment or out in the field, you would do the lion's share of watching.
Whoa.
And so
what's this guy, other guy, doing? He's not doing much.
Resting.
Exercising his trigger finger. That feels good. Yeah. But anyway,
if there was Game Boys to be had, that would be his time.
And apology to all snipers out there. I mean, I'm a little bit.
You're putting him under the bus.
That's right. But it wasn't like that. But you certainly had your lion's share of work because everything you did was you looking after the sniper. And so I did that for probably 3/4 of a year. And what did it for me was we constructed a hide, and it was sort of semi-underground. So the top of the ground was, camouflage as well as the ground was. So it was made out of chicken wire and all sorts of stuff. And then you just, whatever foliage you removed, you put back on top. And then you'd lay sort of side by side, and you only had a small little area in which to sort of, you can only get on your knees, bent over quite tight, And then there was always a rear entrance where you can go in and out, but you couldn't exit throughout the day. And so, you just lie there. And of course, you can't leave any sign that you were there.
What are you doing with the toilet time?
Correct. So you poo in bags.
Yeah.
Poo in bags, tie them up, and they come out with you.
Yep.
Get fucked.
And that's what did it for me. I went, do I really want to spend my life highly camouflaged, lying in a
Carrying my
hole,
own shit around. Did you have to carry his shit around, or did he carry his
No,
own?
he was a good sniper. but I've had other number twos that said, I'd even carry his shit out.
Yeah, well, he's resting.
That's right, I'm resting. So I went back to the sniper supervisor and said, this is not for me, honestly. And so then I just remained a patrolman in the reconnaissance platoon, but not as a sniper.
Or a poo carrier.
Yeah.
So you're too young for Vietnam, because
Yes,
I think it finished like just after my birthday.
Correct. Yeah,
I was called up, but the Labor government got into power after my birthday.
72.
So you actually got drafted?
I got drafted.
No way.
But I couldn't turn up because the Labor government got in and completely abolished it. So I was that close to having to do a term.
Away. If you'd gone the other way, you would have.
That's right.
And the chances are you would have been infantry.
Yeah.
Because the majority of conscripts went straight to infantry battalions. Yeah.
But you obviously did you see active service in other ways?
I did, yes. When I first joined up in 1981, we had the longest period of peacetime.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until really 1999. Yes, in the early 90s, troops went across to Somalia and did other peacekeeping and voting, sort of observing voting in all sorts of places in Africa, Southeast Asia. But Somalia was the first time, it was the first battalion that actually went over and saw some action. And then the second time was in 1999 with East Timor when that blew up. Yeah. And so I happened to be posted in a battalion at that point, so that was sort of, 18 years after I joined, and then I was sent overseas for the first time. And yeah, marvellous. It was a great experience because it was one of those things where with, elite athletes, say if you train for a football match and never get there, you sort of have that itch that says, how would it have really gone? And I guess luckily that it was a very benign operation in terms of, the bandits. It could have been really bad. However, the Indonesians withdrew, well, not quite peacefully, but they withdrew in an orderly fashion. But they could have easily turned on us, and it could have been absolutely bedlam. For the amount of Indonesian troops that were in Timor at the time versus the amount of Australian troops that were there, the weight of odds, it would have just overwhelmed us. But it was many close contacts in terms of, not contacts in a sense of gunfire exchange, but almost done, weapons raised, safety catches off, with Indonesian troops and Australian troops. But, we were well briefed and we were well rehearsed in that. And General Cosgrave at the time, certainly made it clear that we could not have an international incident. And if the Indonesians were coming through, you are to let them through. But it come to a point where it was all the individual commanders on the ground. We're talking about, the lieutenant colonels, the majors in charge of companies. More importantly, though, it was the young lieutenants who just graduated from Duntroon, in charge of 30 men, had to make calls.
Big decisions.
And even the young section commanders in charge of 8 men or 9 men then had to, assess the situation that was unfolding and do a smart choice.
Jim Molan was Jim Molan there, or was it just I know Cosgrave was
yeah, it was Cosgrave at that time.
At that time, he served with the Distinction. I think Molan was more in the Iraq.
Yeah,
and in Afghanistan. Yeah.
And Sir Peter was just magnificent. He was just outstanding. Right person, right time.
Yeah, he served with this absolute distinction, didn't he?
Yeah. He did, yeah, and everyone just loved him because he just knew what had to be done at the time.
Yeah.
And he had the ability to talk to any sort of group of people, including the Indonesians when they had their round tables, and and diffuse many situations. But the big thing that came out of that was we just saved a lot of lives, and that was far better than anything. Shots were exchanged between the units I were in and the local militia units. Yeah. But once they realised they were outgunned and there's a bigger dog in town, well, they couldn't wait to get out of there. They couldn't run to the border fast enough. Yeah. And we couldn't chase them fast enough. As much to our concern, and because I was a major at the time, and I spoke to General Cosgrave because he's always visiting the troops, and I just said, why can't we just cut to the chase? Yeah. You send us to the border, we'll seal it shut, and we'll come back towards Dili, and we can just clean this whole mess up. And that's what he said. He said, we just can't. He said, we just don't know what's out there. Yeah. And if we then force the issue and do something as drastic as that, which technically it made good tactical sense. But he said, we just don't know. We just don't know what the Indonesians will do. So we'll just do it one step at a time, and we'll just move towards the border, push everyone across, and then secure the joint. Yeah. And it worked, and then we got sent down to another enclave within Indonesia called Akusi, and then we had to do the same down there as a battalion. So,
so you got to cross paths with Peter Cosgrove?
Many times. In fact, I got yelled at by General Cosgrove.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. and I made a terrible error one day. I was down at Duntroon as an instructor. I was a senior instructor. And so I looked after all the young kids coming in for the first 6 months of their life. Yeah. And so at that point, General Cosgrove was the Chief of Army.
Yep.
And he loved nothing better to clear the air because he just didn't like all the poodle fakers at his level.
Yep.
He would then come out to Duntroon and just say, entertain me. Well, always, because I was always out at a place called Mandura Range, more times than not, he would turn up there. And so one day he was coming out, and it was fantastic because you have a brief, prepared, and, g'day, sir, how are you going? And so I sat him down, and we had some activities, as the cadets do. And so we had more like an hour or so between activities. And he just said, well, take me back to your headquarters and we'll just chew the fat.
Yep.
And I said, but don't you want to go back to, Army headquarters and do Army stuff? And he said,
Army things?
He said, nope. And so I said, sure. So we were just chatting away, and it was just marvellous. And he just said, Peter, is there anything on your mind and that you want to discuss? And I said, well, yeah. I said, at that point in time, I didn't know he was the patron of Army rugby because he's been a rugby man all his life. And at that point in the sort of, in the 2000s, even defence was bringing themselves into the modern times and not getting people out in the football field and smashing them, and then breaking bodies, and then having to discharge people who are broken, spending that much money in training soldiers.
Training the soldier.
Yeah, just to discharge them because of sporting injuries. And so we were getting red hot on that, and so I just mentioned to him, I said, well, I think Army rugby's dying. And he said, well, what do you say? What made you say? I said, well, it comes a time where the people who are in charge of this needs to understand, and just gave them the whole story about, injury rates.
People who are in charge of it, which was you.
And I said, it's just nonsense, complete nonsense. And he said, well, you know who's in charge of Army rugby? And I said, no, I don't, sir.
Yeah,
and he just looked at me, he said, it's fucking me! And he just went off. And I just went, oh. And I stuck to my guns. I said, well, okay. Well, since we're having a discussion, so I just talked about more, and we, I guess, agreed to disagree. And he's
tricky with someone who's very many ranks.
That's right. Yeah. And then he just said, "Well, what else is on your mind?" And I said, I was thought to myself, "Well, nothing now." And I said, "Yeah, well, there's another bugbear I've got," and it was just about the alcohol consumption. Back in the days when I was a young soldier, and you were certainly a young officer. Drinking was encouraged, but it was something that was done always. But at the end of any sort of deployment exercise, people would have a few beers and sort of just calm down before they come back out of the field. And some of those lengths of time you're away is 6-8 weeks, And then, but soldiers I found with my observations being a non-drinker would come back calm because they had a couple of nights on the grog. Any issues they had, they would sort it out with their mates, whether it was a bit of a roll around in the dust or just hugging each other or whatever. That's great.
A couple of hugs.
Yeah, but then they come home, and then, of course, that would not translate into family violence.
Yep.
Whereas a point in time, defence, and rightly so, have just said, well, everything is dry, you cannot drink out in the field. And then, of course, it sort of then came back to then soldiers would then come home and then get on the terps.
Yeah.
And then spend another night away from family and friends and, or go home and drink and then become violent, So I mentioned that to Cosgrove. I said, again, sir, whoever come up with this idea of being dry, I said, honestly, they have not thought that through. And he just looked at me and he just said, you're not hitting many runs here, are you? And I said, why is that, sir? And he said, well, it was me. It was my decision. I said, all right.
Okay, I think the fat's been chewed.
Yeah, that's right. And I said, so what led you to that path, sir? And then he just told me a story about when he was a young officer, how alcohol affected, not him himself, but he saw things that have occurred through alcohol abuse and misuse. And he said he vowed that every time he got to the next rank and had more influence, and he would. And he did, and rightly so. Yeah, rightly so.
So you were 2 strikes from 2 strikes.
Oh yeah, I was on fire. But
how was the car ride back to the range?
Oh, it was great. No, because after we finished, and I saluted and said, thanks for visiting. He just said, Pete, thanks for that. He said it was a marvellous chat. Yeah. He said I don't really get to do that often. Okay.
You're sweating balls?
Yeah, I don't get to do that often either. Sitting at a hill getting yelled at by a general.
But that's a good leader, and also it's a good soldier to have a frank discussion. That's the only way you.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And knowing that there's going to have differences, and just be smart enough and old enough and wise enough just to accept that. But still, don't change if you've got such a conviction about something. Yeah. Don't change because someone else is saying it.
And he obviously had a good intent, did that. But then you brought up sometimes there's unintended consequences which they don't really think. So sometimes you do things out of good intent and they don't exactly work the way you want them to.
Yeah, but he's had a marvellous memory though. He's like an elephant, honestly.
Really?
Doesn't forget names and faces. He just had this incredible skill. So wind the clock forward, another, little while. I was at the 6th Battalion at Enoggera, and we had a battalion ball. He happened to be invited as one of the guests of honour. And I hadn't spoken to him in many years. So I'm just sitting there with my wife and other friends, and I said, there's General Cosgrave, or Cosy. I said, there's Cosy over there. I said, he and I are like this. We're great mates.
Sure.
Wife's going, no way. Sure. So anyway, old General Cosgrave, as he did, marvellous man, pressing the flesh, working a room like an absolute legend. He walks around, a few tables, and he locks eyes with me. He says, Pete, I haven't seen you in a long time. And he came over and he pumped my hand and slapped me on the back. And then he said, and I introduced him to my wife. Oh, you should be so impressed with this man. And he just waxed lyrical about me. And then of course, said, see you later, and off he went. And I just sat back like I was a legend.
No big deal.
Yeah, she just looked at me straight. She said, of course he knows you.
This is sort of cool, isn't it? I mean, the 2 most talkative people in the gym, we're just kept quiet, aren't we? He's got all the stories.
Young Pete's got the good stuff, bro.
Yeah, young Pete's got it all.
Normally you can't shut us up.
Yeah. Well, he's found the secret. He just.
There you go.
You didn't think about going to the military, Pete?
No, that's not my style.
So how did you feel though? When you got conscripted, because back then it was one of those really contentious topics.
Like that the guys that came back from that just got snubbed so terribly.
Absolutely, yeah. And
it was a horrible.
When you were going for conscription, it was almost like the draw, wasn't it? It was your birthday.
Oh yeah, it was the odds and evens of the birthday. So they would call out odds, and so if your birthday was the 4th or like mine was, all the 4ths turned up. Like all the 3rds and the 5ths, they got away. They didn't get called up. But all the 4ths and the 8ths and the 12ths, everyone with an odd. So they just called it odd and even.
So how did you feel when your number came up? Was it a feeling of dread?
At the time,
a little bit exciting? What was
that? I'm pretty sure that was the It's Time election. I don't know whether you remember that.
Gough Whitlam.
And it was so overwhelming that you knew that Labor was going to win. You knew that like six months out, because this is a government that had been in power for about 21 years, and they had just become very, very corrupt and completely lost the plot. And Gough offered a real view of the future, real amazing view of the future.
He was visionary.
Yeah, he took it.
He was a little obviously politically naive.
So even though I got the number, because I was born on the 4th and the odds, what evens were called, I sort of knew that it wasn't going to happen.
So it wasn't a bit of a worry.
No, it wasn't even a worry because by the time I think the election was like in October or something. I was September, and by the time the election was held, which was only sort of a month away, it was all over. And you knew as soon as they got in that they were going to cancel conscription. But it was a worry.
It would have been, and I heard stories too that fellows who were going through training, once Whitlam had won the election, were just told that's it.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah.
You're done.
I was chatting to one bus driver over Virginia, and that's what he did.
Thanks for your service.
He said one day, we got told that's it, we're done. He said, I just took my uniform off, put some civilian clothes on,
and walked out.
Just walked out the front gates of the
that'd be a strange experience.
Yeah, well, it would have been because, at that point, he was thinking that he was going to head across into the paddy fields of Vietnam.
Yeah.
and knowing that how much death and destruction was occurring there, there would be a fair chance that something would have happened to you. So I tell you.
Well, Cosgrove was an ex-Vietnam, wasn't he?
Correct, yes. He won
I think
crossover there. Yeah. That's right, for Valor. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he served with distinction. He's an exemplary soldier. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And again, he is, and everyone that knows him just tells the fondest stories. Yeah. It's not like I've never heard anyone badmouth, General Cosgrove.
Yeah.
For other people, yes, everyone sort of takes a little snide swipe here and there of what they may have done.
Some of the, again, without watching Laws of Love, but some of the people who followed him didn't have the same mindset or the same command and the same leadership, and also they took the army, I think, in another direction.
Look, and you're right, and I think it was just parallel with the changing of the times as well.
Yeah.
When we were joined up, we were probably at the tail end of it, which I think was probably a blessing in disguise. But when you reflect back on it, it was quite interesting because a lot of Vietnam veterans who'd seen active service were still in the ranks and still were able to impart great knowledge when it come to warcraft.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you learnt great lessons. And they told you why. You do this for the following. And if you don't do this, here's an example. I was over patrolling and they give you a whole story. And you go, makes sense. And then so when I was going through training at the infantry school, all our sergeants were Vietnam veterans. All our warrant officers were. And even one of our section commanders was a Vietnam veteran because it was only, 8 or 9 years after the war had ended.
Absolutely. And that's why that period you said in the 80s, there was an attrition then of people who'd had active experience and things like that.
So there would have been a training experience at some point when there was people training who didn't have that experience, teaching people to go through.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah. And you're spot on. And I was even one of those people because when I was a corporal and particularly as a sergeant, I was an instructor at the School of Infantry, and it was the same thing.
Yep.
You still, give lessons.
Becomes more theory based.
But there was not much, the theory based. There wasn't much practicality because you had no experience to draw from. Again, when we're back in war, from East Timor onwards, Iraq and Afghanistan and everything else in between, yes, then of course all that depth of knowledge came back.
Yep.
And it's just unfortunate that lessons had to be learnt the hard way once more.
I was going to say,
in combat.
The military craft would have changed too.
That's
obviously.
right. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where we write great after-action reports.
Yep.
And it all gets archived, but no one goes afterwards and blows the dust off it to say, now what happened then? Some great lessons here to be learnt, I was reading just an article not so long ago, and it was a major back in the First World War in the British Army, his thoughts on warfare. It still stands up. After 115 years, his thoughts on warfare, you just look at it now and go, why haven't we remembered that, And it was just all the simple things, know your soldiers, know the enemy more than your soldiers, know the ground you're fighting on, know all that sort of stuff where, in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't lost, let's say not lost, but it was just sort of forgotten a little bit.
Not prioritised.
Yeah, and so, once again, with reality of combat, brought it all back into focus again.
So how'd you end up in at Fortitude? How did that...
Through my daughter. Yeah, my daughter Rihanna, she was just decided to get fit, and so she was going to Fortitude and just loved the joint. And so do I, actually, free plug for the place. It's where everyone parks their egos and you just walk in and you're accepted for who you are. And I think that's just marvellous. And
so are you competing tomorrow like Ian is?
Not at all.
No, we have Ian. Ian is on tomorrow.
So you've done a competition?
No, not at all.
I haven't seen you.
Well, that's right. They keep trying to get me in, but
But it's not a competition. It's just a hoot. It's just a hoot. It's not really a competition. It's not meant.
Daughter, she was going to the gym just to get fit, and she was into powerlifting and loving it. And so when I left the army, I said I'm never going to lift another weight in anger for the rest of my life. And I'm just going to get old. I'm going to get fat, and I'm going to love every minute of it. And so one day for my birthday, Rihanna just said, "Oh, happy birthday, Dad! And by the way, you're getting a bit fat, so
I've signed you up."
Here's a couple of sessions with Coogan.
She did. She said, I've booked you in for a couple of sessions, and she said we start next week. And I went, oh. And since I love her so much, I said, of course I will. And I'm going, this is going to hurt. Because I hadn't, probably 6 years, I guess, I hadn't done any fitness.
Yeah.
And so that first session I did with Jamie, and it was just a general, let's get to know you, what are your limits? And I was in the
You
Hurt
just
Locker.
squatted your weight. You didn't squat any weight. You just You just squatted your body weight.
I did lifting of some weights, but I know it was just so light on the bar.
Yeah.
I think someone was just even a bar. But anyway, because I was so indoctrinated into following orders, whatever Jamie said, I did.
You did.
Yeah, he said you do 7 of them, do 10 of them, you know.
And you counted them out.
Yes,
And I
Yes,
did.
sir.
I just said, well, okay, yep, get down and do it. I couldn't even remember driving home. I couldn't even remember my name. I think I even shat my pants some point. I don't know. But I was in the Hurt Locker. I staggered at home. My wife, Kerry, thought I was actually having a coronary. And that's what she said. What are you doing? And I said, well, I think it's going to be good for me because obviously, you know, fitness is key, you know, to keeping all the ailments away. And I said, look, I'll never ever feel this bad ever again if I keep going back to the gym on a regular basis. I said, so today is the worst I'll ever feel. And so, Rhea and I trained for a good probably year and a half together.
Yep.
And gee, it was good fun. It was just magnificent because, again, you can't lose fact of this is such a special moment you're sharing with your daughter. How often would you get to do that? You know, a 50-year-old guy with his 25-year-old daughter going to the gym together, training together.
Lovely.
You know, it is marvellous. And that's what I said to Kerry, I'll never stop doing this because, you know, it's such a special bond. Twice a week, I get to have time with my daughter. You know, wow.
And both of you boys have had the same experience. You trained with Suze back in the day.
Yeah. My
and
daughter's
your
been
son
there.
Trains there as well.
Yeah, so you understand.
It is a family thing.
It is.
We came because Elliot met an amazing girl who trained at the gym. And,
She is amazing.
And he then went from his old gym to Jonny's and never looked back. And he said then Helen and I started training, and I'm probably, you know, they say they're a natural. I think that you wouldn't use that.
It's like Greer and Helen of the athletes.
Yeah, because so Helen,
You're the support team.
support team. Yeah,
Someone's got to drive the
They're
car.
excellent as well, though.
yeah. But,
Someone's got to cook the barbecue.
Helen's my wife's had done a lot of fitness throughout her life, but she's very much was into Pilates, and she did resistant weights. In fact, she even did some powerlifting as a girl, you know, back in the early days when it was not even popular. But I'd never thought I'd ever see her ever do powerlifting until she met Jonny, and he just clicked the button in her head, and she's and
We are record hunting.
yeah, she's record hunting. She's going tomorrow for her bounty record. She hasn't her age record. She hasn't got this bench press. She's got to try and snare that.
Right.
She's got the others, but
And what sort of weight did she have to bench for that?
We need to press 46 tomorrow.
yeah.
Current record 45.5.
There you go.
She would do it standing on her head.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tricky. She's not the princess of press.
No, she's
Right.
good
She
deadlift.
can
Deadlift,
Squat is
amazing.
coming along well.
Yeah.
The bench is probably, I don't want to call it the weak link, but it's not as strong as the
Right.
other ones. But it's going to be cool. She will definitely have the opportunity to go for it. She's strong enough to have that opportunity. So that means that she can hit the ones she needs to before it, and then we'll put it on there, and then she gets to have what I like to call the ultimate argument.
Yeah.
It'll be
Wonderful.
her versus the barbell.
Oh, that's so
But
good.
like, you know, talking about what you said, the experience of training with your daughter, like there's a photo that I love, and it's Elliot and Helen together.
Yeah, I wish I had it on my phone, but
It's incredible.
It's a great photo because she's got this look of absolute intense focus, and he's there, he's behind it. He's a big fella, you know, got the big Viking beard. He's looking, and it's a great photo.
It's it
Great
encapsulates
sun
a
mum
great
shot.
moment,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
it's probably, you know, Elliot could never be more prouder, and Hallie could not be
Isn't that
not be
wonderful?
more stoked to have her son beside her to be in that space in that moment. Like that's
it's
exceptional.
We've been calling Elliot Helen's son. You know,
Oh, that's just, that is mean. That is mean and
Mostly,
nasty.
if I'm not mistaken, you have feet.
aren't you Helen's son?
I think it was Aristophanes, or in one of the Aristophanes plays, it said, only a mother can love her child because she knows it's hers. The father only thinks it is. She often reminds me he has some similarities that seem to be genetic based rather than chance.
Elliot likes to complain about his genetics as well, and he likes to suggest perhaps that most of them came from you. And but however, at this point in time, I am instructed from Elliot to give a shout out he was one of the founding ideas to ensure that this podcast did happen.
Oh, well done.
So at some point in time, Elliot, I know you will be listening.
He wanted recognition.
This is your opportunity for recognition. We did, in fairness, invite you into this podcast, however.
And he drove me here.
Yeah.
But
we actually made it hard for him. I mean, when he turned up, we really dumped on him. You know? he didn't get didn't get an easy introduction into Facebook. I want to say, but Fortitude. Too much red wine. But he survived it. He survived the first session, and he came back a second, and the rest is history.
Session, yeah.
Yeah, in the first session.
Unfortunately or fortunately, fella, it depends how you look at it. He gets maybe the word opportunity could be the word to describe it, to squat with Pete every week.
And is that an opportunity?
It is up to you to decide what that is, or experience perhaps is a better way to determine it. And what I've done as the coach to encourage the experience, Elliot and Pete have the same session. So they squat
got the same weights.
Doing the same weight.
I only do one. He does 5, but but that's okay. But looking up records, Helen looks up records like I used to, and they were blank Excel sheet. When you get old enough and in a particular category, you can get into some really good spots. But poor old Ian looks it up, and all the records are held by this guy here.
He's been there for me, yeah. I thought, here you go, there's an age record that no one's been in. Yeah, it has.
Yeah, it has actually.
So I've got to wait until...
So when I was getting the record, there were blank Excel spreadsheets, but poor old Ian comes along after me, and they're not blank anymore. They've got actually a number in there.
Buy your time. You're just still young. You're still young. Buy your time. You'll get there.
But Pete and Elliot, they
what happened? The thing go off.
Camera's off, but still recording.
Okay.
All good.
We're masters of invective and masters of slagging off each other. But
yeah.
I remember when I first had my first workout, Pete was there, and he said to Jonny, he said, "Who's this?" And Pete said, "Oh, it's Ian." And Pete looked at what I was lifting. He said, "My records are safe, that's for sure."
Well, he was in the same age, and I had to sort of sum him up.
Establish some sort of dominance.
I think the records are safe. I think the records are safe.
A bit of big dog dominance, and I sort of cowed away with my
Although his bench is looking really good. I'm thinking that's all over soon. Once he concentrates on bench,
it's all over. I don't know if you worked it out or realised yet, but I said to you a long time ago that at some point in time your records will disappear, and I will ensure I am the one that is myself accountable for doing that. And this is my first pony.
But what Ian's pissed off about is that I've got records in 82 kilos, 90 kilos, 100 kilos, 110. I've made sure that all the categories were covered. And he says to me, why did you have to come down and play in the 90 kilos? Why don't you stay in the 100 kilos?
I'm dropping weight. I've only got a couple of kilos, and I'm in that nice 90 kilogram category. But now I've got to wait till I get older. 65.
He's just not old enough now.
Another year. This year, I'm in the next. I'm in the sweet spot.
Because there was a guy on the podcast we talked about. He said there's this idea of the 65-year-old aspirational athlete.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They've never had that before. In the history of humanity, there's never been a 65-year-old that fronts up and thinks that they've got an athletic.
Better still, and this would be cool for young Pete coming through for you guys. He talks more about there's no measure for you guys.
Yeah, they don't. And the beauty of that is that all the numbers, which they call Gloss-Brenner, I think it is, Gloss-Brenner, they've worked it out on the last 20 years of 65-year-olds, which they weren't doing anything. And so now I come through with a reasonable sort of plus Jonny training, plus Fortitude, plus 15 years or whatever. And...
Camera, turn this way a little, bro.
And which way do you want to turn it?
This way. Bring right leg forward.
This right leg forward.
Yep, towards me a little bit. Yeah, there we go.
And
continue, boys.
And what was I talking about? So the 65-year-old, it hasn't been a big category. So with the Gloss-Brenner, they've worked out the numbers on the 20-year ago 65-year-olds who were probably just pedaling around and not real trained athletes.
So everything's achievable then.
So now, of course, when you get that score, like I think I've ranked top 10. I think
you were
I'm
top 1 squat last year.
Yeah, I was top 1 in the world. Yeah, last year
in the world,
for my age and weight.
Yeah, Pete's got world records.
You're not too far on the camera, Pete.
Yeah,
Come forward.
That is outrageous.
Yeah. And that luckily that's locked
There
in.
was 2 other people in it, but so you got number 1.
No, there was a whole lot of them. But you know that's funny that the whole world. This is on Power. What's it called?
Open powerlifting.
Open powerlifting, yeah. So if you type in, 2021, so it's a bit narrow.
Yep.
My age, 65 to 70, and my weight, 100 kilo class. No one squatted bigger than what I squatted
that amazing?
In
at
the whole
nationals.
world, yeah.
In the whole world,
And
in
I would
that
put
year.
money on any retired athlete, at Olympic class who was
Would still be in the
powerlifting,
play.
would still be doing it. If they were lifting in the 60s and 70s, you would think they'd be lifting
You think
now.
so, but then obviously someone just sick of it or pissed off, and it's the people who come to it new think, yeah.
Well, the beauty of it is that Jonny picked me up when I was 55, So he got me at 55 when I needed help and has taken me through that journey. And, I was thinking about every year, apparently he tells me I want to give up between December and February because I think this is ridiculous. And then this morning I told him, I said, actually, I was looking forward to squatting. That's the first time in like 8 weeks that I've actually said, I've been training during that time, not heavily.
Training, have you?
Well, not training, but I've been turning up to the gym. We've been having a chat to Ian, at the gym and that sort of stuff. But so I think I'm in for another. I think I'm in for another year. I'm committed back.
Ian's favourite wine.
Oh,
this is an opportunity to have a quick chat about it.
In terms of responsible drinking, I'm not wanting to push you because we're trying
Don't
to
push me.
We're trying.
We're here to be pushed. I think we're here to be pushed.
I'm not driving.
As a record holder, I thought you could be,
More disciplined.
no, less disciplined. More, at least better.
Is this your favourite?
Yeah, this is my absolute favourite wine.
Talk us through it, bro.
In the whole world.
Tell us about it.
So, and this is the immense cachet Jonny has. He says, come along, and so I'd bring my absolute favourite wine, and so it's a Woodlands Margaret. So Woodlands is. But I'm reticent to say this because then it'll probably then mean I'll never be able to get it because everyone who's listening to the podcast
will go and buy it.
We have an incredibly large audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Global audience.
We are global.
Yeah. So this is not the most expensive wine that I've brought along, but by any means. But it's called a Bordeaux blend. So it's a Cabernet Sauvignon, a Malbec, and a Merlot. A small amount of Malbec and Merlot.
And it's delicious.
But it's just delicious. It's just beautiful. I mean, it honestly is a lovely wine. And I've got a.
How'd you come across this?
Helen and I went to Margaret River some years ago,
Yep.
and we were wanting to go to West Australia for the there was Elliot and Greer were in the titles
nationals. Nationals.
Capo last year.
Yeah, and then we they said to us, maybe you can come and we can go.
Wasn't that nice of them?
Yeah. As long as you don't spend too much time, with but you can come. And so anyway, we organised accommodation and everything, and then of course, West Australia, the biggest bedwetters in the whole world. You can't. Goodness me, you wouldn't. So it didn't eventuate, but we found this wine. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. So I've got one. The next one is one of the adjoining blocks. It's a Cab Sav. It's a Mosswood. It's one of these sort of nice ones, but this is absolutely lovely. And so being a Bordeaux blend, it's like that sort of classic sort of blend.
It is delicious.
French wine, and it all comes down to what you like, isn't it? It doesn't have to be this, that, and the other. It's something that you like. And this,
I've got a photo of all of them, so it's fine.
Yeah, and I drink this.
I'm just going to go through Dan Murphy's with this photo.
You not find any of them because they're not there, mate.
Looking at the shelves, trying to find a.
This one's a 2015. It was not available.
You will not find that at Dan Murphy's, young Pete.
Anyway, that's hope you guys, and I think you can see we're a little ahead, and
no, you're doing all right.
And because I'm lifting tomorrow, I've been very restrained. You can't see that, but I'm actually trying.
I'm being very restrained. I don't think you've actually had anything at all, have you, really?
I'm using some of the techniques that I learned in the army.
Well, the best bit is here, I don't know if you haven't realised this yet, but this doesn't come out until after.
Yeah, it's okay. That's it.
So it doesn't even matter.
Now the brakes are off.
Yeah.
The thing I'd be interested to ask you boys, because how old are you, young Pete?
How old am I?
Yes.
Just turned 58.
Oh, so you're catching
58?
Yeah.
you're catching up to these
64,
boys.
yeah. I was born in 64.
You're going to have to get in. You're going to have to get your name on the record. That's all.
I thought you were young. Yeah.
That's the go. You know, you're going to have to.
Good genes, mate.
Yeah.
But it's not 68 or 60 that it used to be anymore, in my own opinion. Like there's a sliding scale of what a 60-year-old can do now. Like that's still.
Well, I was reflecting.
You might agree with me. I still think it's young, based off what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a very young mindset. That's like I was reflecting today. You know, just how I can get along with everyone in the gym, even though their ages range from 18.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
What do you mean by get along is pick on?
But I can go up to them and they don't go, "Why are you talking to me? You're an old man." They actually go.
Elliot's 28 or 29. 20, I think he's 29 this year. He loves. They just bounce off each other, you know, and they both. He has a whale of a time.
Yeah, it's a really enjoyable that Saturday morning session that we have. It's the Be Bad team. You know, we get invited to be the team within the Fortitude, the group within the group within the group, and it's a great team, very very supportive. There, you know, you're yelling out and you're supporting one another, and it's just you go there because you really enjoy the atmosphere. You don't enjoy the training so much because it hurts, but everything else about it is just fantastic, and you know, and to see Elliot come through, he was just a bro lifter, you know, your son.
I think he might still be.
Yeah, but to see him come through and now actually do some real genuine, you know, he's nudging some pretty big numbers. Already doing some good numbers, but it was just lovely to see that development. See someone who's just a bro lifter turn into actually the real McCoy. You know, it's being enjoyable.
Once he went with Jonny, it's the next level, and he's able to do something. You know.
Well, I guess he saw what he's done with Greer. You know, you just can't help but look across at Greer and just go, you know, because Greer's, you know, a thin person, and she's pumping out, I think 185 she's done as a squat.
Yeah, wow.
You know, how's that possible? You know, she's like 60-something kilos. And
she's superhuman.
You know, you just look at it and, you know, you'd win so many bar bets with that. I used to do that when I had a pub in Sydney, and we used to get lots of football teams come in. And that was in the days when I was still a gymnast, you know. And my partner at the time, he'd say, "How much?" You know, all the Canberra Raiders were in the bar. He said, "How much if this guy can get?" Yeah, all the boys.
Well, just tell us what year? What sort of years are we looking at here? Just give everyone an idea of
80, late 80s, 89, early 90s, Canberra Raiders. And he went along the bar. He says, "How much that this guy?" And I was in a suit. You know, I was a bit dressed up. I was the manager of the bar. Pub, and how much for this guy to stand on his hands and go across and then come down and do a back salt at the end? Oh, that's up! Look at the guy, you know. And I don't know what age I was in, probably early 40s, you know. And they all put their money on the bar, you know. And then he said, "Okay, Pete, over to you." And so sure enough, handstand across the bar, stop.
On the bar itself?
No, in the bar, you know.
Yes.
So handstand all the way across, stop. Back salt onto my feet, and he just went along and just cleaned up
How much money
the
were you
whole.
collecting?
I don't know. It would be hundreds. Yeah, there was lots on the bar, you know, and I think Greer could be the same.
That was a tax deductible income that was generated then.
Oh yeah. There was no brown paper bags in my day. They hadn't invented brown paper bags.
And you worked in the King's Cross.
No. This is in the Chinatown.
So there'd be no brown paper bags.
No brown paper bags. No.
Just to put things in perspective, we in grammar days, whilst I didn't know Pete personally.
Did you know of?
He was a legend because, see, why I knew Baskerville, very few people did gymnastics in those days. And the only one people who did it were exceptionally good at it. I mean, it wasn't something the average person did. We just couldn't do it. And so we had great facilities, but Baskerville was a name that was legendary. Like Fancut was in our days in tennis. People wouldn't know that, but years ago the Fancuts were a big, and their kids went to grammar, and then same as one of my lecturer's sons, Neil Martin represented the Mexico Olympics. He's a swimmer, and so he was a grammar, and so but Baskerville was this legendary gymnast, and so as soon as I heard his name, isn't that funny? I never met the guy. I thought, shit, he's that gymnast. And so we never met, but it was always on the honour board and the colours and that.
His name's still on that bloody.
Yeah, I haven't found it. It's there somewhere. It used to be. It used to be in the Great Hall, and the only reason I went to the 50th reunion was to see my name in the Great Hall, which is this revered 200-year-old building, or 150-year-old building, and it wasn't there. They removed it, and apparently they put it down.
No, it's in the sports hall.
It's in the sports hall or something the big new one down in Roma Street. So I have to go down there and have a look. But yeah, my name's up in the honour board.
I got a brown third-place medal in tunnel ball.
Did you play some sport back in the day?
Tunnel ball?
No, he says he played for the Seas.
The Seas.
The Seas is they have in rugby from A to usually to F.
Yeah, my balls didn't drop till I was 25. So some guys had 3 kids and were shaving by 13 or 14. I remember was it Annie McIntyre was a year above us, and that she was bench pressing. I'd come in and had to lift the bar, and he was had a couple of plates either side and things like that. And so rugby was a thing where you had different maturity rates and things like that.
And that maybe there was a correlation between what division you were in.
Yeah,
with that
very much.
Rate as well.
But I wasn't lacking heart and whatever. That said, I actually played for the Larks, or Laverack Army Rugby Club was the pinnacle of my success. But I realised early in the piece, I thought, because a mate of mine I met subsequently used to play, not quite All Blacks there. Yeah, well, even mind you, in New Zealand, even most of the mums have played for the run-on team for the All Blacks, there. And so I said, "Isn't it amazing? Every time on kickoff, I always seem to get the ball. They must think they said no.
They must think you're really good. They only kick it to the good player.
I mean, isn't that good? I finally come good. I've gone from the Seas to the land, and every time they kick the ball in, and so
guess what happens after that?
Bumble in the warm up, they're going, look at this guy. He's sort of got one arm here and one arm there, and things like that. And he filled me in. I thought, oh.
One of the things I was looking forward to talk to you boys about, and it's, I think, a bit different to where the world's at the moment, is you've been married how many years?
46, they tell me.
40, you thought it's 46 or was 45 the other day? Or did you miss
45 was it? Okay. I haven't been keeping count, but yeah.
33.
I'm just still calculating. What's that? 36?
34 this year,
Yeah, 36. Married 86.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
In modern day times, in my experience,
coming up to 36.
Yeah.
Very abnormal. Not many people are doing that anymore.
Look, you're absolutely right.
Which, I don't know. What are you guys doing different?
Well, I guess I can start. In defence, that was a rare event to have someone married for so long. Because it was just the strains that defence would put on relationships. And it was always, back then it was, I can say husbands were generally the one that was going away. Nowadays it's completely different, but in my time. And so, people would go away for long periods of time and it was put strain. And then guys would come back from whatever they were doing. Then the same weekend they'd be out playing golf with the same guys that'd been away for 6 to 8 weeks. They'd go, to watch footy, or they'd go to the pub. I never made that choice because I realised that, your family is it forever. And you see your mates all the time, so there's no point doing that after hours. And so I was always the guy that would always be at home. I'd never go out with anyone on weekends except family. And we just had that special bond. And also with my kids, when my son Michael was born, he didn't know because he was just born. But out of that first year, he was born in 2nd of March, I only saw him for 6 weeks in that entire year.
Wow.
Because I was always away.
You were overseas or just
overseas
just
in Malaya, just going on courses, going deployments in Australia. But I realised then if I was doing that, every second I was home, it had to be the kids. And so that was always away all through their schooling as they're growing up. And it certainly, my wife and I have grown together nicely over the years. Not that it was easy all the time, because it never is. And I guess the hardest thing is for a guy in a relationship to understand that. It is hard work. And Kerry was just, and hats off to her, she was always one that was pushing the next level in terms of, we're feeling stale, we need to go do something. And I was the last person in the world to go get any counselling. But she said, we need to get a marriage counsellor. Not that our marriage was bad, but she just felt it was going stale. And until we went counselling for the first time, then it was sort of brought upon me that there's some actual sense in this. It makes a lot of sense. No one is an island. You cannot fix it by yourself. If you seek help and get good help, and then it just launched our relationship even deeper. And so it came to a point where, Kerry would say, I think we're getting stale. We should probably go to marriage counselling. I'd be there too, saying, sounds great, let's go.
Wow.
And it's just, made it better and better. And now, I couldn't think of anyone else to be with for the rest of my life, to tell you the truth.
It's unreal.
We're just so comfortable together. We're almost the one person now, but we know that we need to spend time apart. So if Kerry needs to go and spend time with her mum, or I do Central Australia trip I did last year, with brother-in-laws and other friends for a couple of weeks, it's easy, And I think the key thing with any sort of relationship is it has to be built on trust. It's key. And if you, don't have that trust element, I think that's where you're going to fail from day one. And Kerry and I just trust each other implicitly. That's just one of those things. And an open communication. You've got to tell her feelings. Hard for a guy to say, I'm hurting. Hard for a guy to say, I don't know what to do here. Because it always falls back. It almost is default setting for most men to say, I need to fix an issue. And if you don't know, you've got to be man enough to say, I really don't know what to do here. And then go seek some sort of assistance.
Even that part, making the seek assistance part. But how many guys are just like,
correct.
You know what I mean?
And it is sad. That saddens me greatly, where that you can see a relationship that is not quite right, and you even speak to the young guy, mate, all you need to do, it's a simple fix this, but you need to let yourself go on this journey. And unfortunately, people just don't do that because they're not ready. So so for me, that's the key thing.
And where did you meet Kerry?
Well, funny enough, in Brisbane, as most people know Brisbane, if you're north and south of the Brisbane River, you never even
No.
You don't go over the bridge.
Oh, no, you don't go over the bridge. Well,
and you still don't.
Well, that's true, but I was at Capalaba and Kerry was over at Strathpine, Launton.
Wow.
And it was just
that's way over the bridge.
Yeah, I know. And yet it was a friend of my sister who brought Kerry over one weekend just to meet my parents because, she'd gotten really well with them. I happened to be in the army at the time as a young, I don't know, maybe 20-year-old actually. And so I just turned up off leave, and there was this lovely lady who was also a 20-year-old. And I just looked at her and I went, wow, I like her look. And she sort of gave me the eye back, and then I said, hey, how are you? What are you doing? And then before you know it...
That's a great pickup line.
It was great. And she was a soldier. Then she got warned by her dad, don't go with the soldier.
Don't date soldiers.
Because he was an ex-soldier himself. Ex-infantryman as well. He just said, don't you dare. I know what infantrymen are like. I know what he's after. And then, of course... Kerry wanted to go fishing. I don't fish for anything. I don't even like fishing, but Kerry said...
You want to go fishing?
Yeah, she said, you want to go fishing? I said, I love fishing. Let's go. So all of that hideousness. But it just, we just kicked off from day one. And, I think we sort of, maybe 4 years, we were sort of seeing each other before, we asked a question, I proposed. And from there, it was just glory.
That's it.
Wow. You knew Gwen as a childhood sweetheart, I believe.
It's pretty weird, yeah. Our grandparents were good friends.
Yeah.
Our grandparents. Gwen's grandparents. And my grandparents were good friends. Jeez. And then our parents were really, really good friends. And so, I met Gwen when I was 12 and she was 10. So that's where we met.
That's where you write
Yeah. That's really. So you know, we've just grown up together. You know, we just we were in the same church together. You know, it was her grandparents used to pick up my parents and take them to church, and you know, it's just such a intertwined history. You know,
my goodness.
And so we just grew up together basically, and just kept going. You know, we just joined up, and I often tell this story about. Gwen, we finally had our first date, you know, because we were in a I was 21 and she was 2 years younger, so that'll put her at 19.
We'll call that 19.
But we were both working in town, and we said, look, let's go out and see a movie, you know, and that was our first sort of real date. Yeah,
do you remember the movie?
Yeah, it was what's that?
Shed.
Paul Newman and Robert Redfern. The gambling, and they take the guys down.
And they jump over the cliff or whatever.
Oh no, not that one. That's Sundance. The Sting. Yeah, that's the movie we went and see. Yeah. But I mean, it was. You know, we finally got to a first date. You know, because we'd be just hanging around together in a youth group. You know, and we said, all right, well, this is serious. And so we arranged to meet outside her place and at work. And I was working in Queen Street, but in those days we didn't have mobile phones or anything, you know. So I was called into a meeting at about 5 minutes to 5, and I was going to meet her after work at 5. And I got called into a really emergency meeting, and I couldn't ring her. I couldn't contact her. And so I just went to this meeting, and it went for like an hour and a half. And I'm leaving her standing outside, on our first date outside the thing. And I remember running after the meeting up to her work, and I thought, if she's still waiting, I have to marry her. You know, that was my thought. Because anyone that would wait that long, and you know, when I turned up, she was standing outside waiting. And I said, and what she said is, I knew you'd come.
Oh wow!
And I just thought
it's like that a love story, isn't it?
It's like, beautiful. And I just said I have to go with this girl, but
how long did it take between date to get on that knee?
Yeah, no, we just hung out together then, and then I said one day, you know, maybe we should get married. And she said, yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll do it January 26th.
Yeah, we did it January 26th, so I could remember the anniversary, Australia Day. So I never forget. I never forget it because you know it's Australia Day. You know, we upset everyone else.
Somewhere, so there it is.
But we probably take a different approach. You know, we take an approach that the marriage serves individuals, not the other way around. We don't. Together belong to a marriage. We just say that our partnership helps us as individuals. And so quite often, and it's quite funny that Jonny, because Gwen trains with Jonny as well, that he knows more about what's going on than I do, because, you know, Gwen, you know, she'll go on a jury and not share that with us. You know, she works in cabinet. She prepares the cabinet bag every week for her minister. And so she knows all this confidential stuff, never says a word. You know, I never know anything. And when it comes out, she's, I knew about that.
She knows all the things.
And so, you know, basically our marriage serves the individuals, you know, in the sense that our partnership helps the individual grow. And, you know, and so we often joke that we have our house divided up into Gwen's room. You know, she has a particular room that's hers, and I knock on the door to say, you know, can I come in? You know, would you like a cup of tea or whatever? And you know, and I think if you promote the individual, the individual sort of says, well, why would I want to leave this? This is a relationship where I get to be everything I want to be because my partner's helping me be everything I want to be.
And I guess the bottom line
why
is
would I want to
give
respect
for each other.
Yeah, that's what it becomes because, you know, ultimately, you know, you've got about 5 years, 7 years maybe of that nice, warm, fuzzy stuff, and then that soon goes. And so what are you left with? You're left with a commitment you made to help someone be everything that they could be, and that's how we've got along. And in fact, we've got along as two individuals that use marriage to help us develop as individuals, you know. And so, and I think that's a much more realistic thing than that lovey-dovey holding hands, wanting to hug, you know, we don't have that. We do have it, but we don't have it all the time. We have mostly a desire to help each other out and support each other. And it works well, you know. And she was saying at our anniversary, I don't think it would have worked with anyone else. That's what she said. I don't think I could have found anyone else that could have.
Right there and then, she was just going through to make sure.
She was just going through the list and said, "No, it wouldn't have worked with anyone else. I think it would only work with someone like you, you know." So
but that's an interesting view. I've never.
Yeah, it's inverse. It's not that we protect the marriage; we protect the individual, and marriage is the thing that we use to protect the individual and help the individual grow, you know. She says, like, when we teamed up, her parents told her that she was going to be, you know, pregnant and bare feet in the kitchen. That was her parents' view of her. Whereas Gwen wants to be a PhD professor at university. That's what she wanted to be. And so I have supported her all the way through that. And she's now she got as far as a master's in English literature, and she said, I think that's enough. You
don't think she's studying?
But I think she would love to go on and get a PhD.
I could see her doing a PhD,
but I mean, you know, she needed someone that was going to support her while she's having kids.
Support and a family.
Support her and allow her to go out and study. She was the one out at night, not me. I was at home with the kids, and she was the one at uni, you know, doing her studies and going away on weekends and weeks to Armidale to do her studies and that. But and I think that's an important thing to realise, that the individual is still the critical thing. That's the number one thing. And the marriage is a great institution that's designed to help the individual get to become the best that they can be. And she knows there's a safe place, you know. She knows that there's someone there to support her in all that, you know.
And I think, I think the two relationships that we are sort of almost poles apart, but there's certainly a number of tenets there that you can certainly pick on that still apply equally, particularly with that, you know, as you said, the support of each other. You need that in a good relationship, you know, and almost it's the bubble. When you come home, it's that bubble that you share, you know, even though we sort of have opposite views on a marriage, but it still works, doesn't it?
Look, for me, two individuals write the marriage. It's not society, it's not other parents, it's not other family. The two individuals sit down and together agree what's going to work for them. And they are the absolute law. You know, I say this to my kids. You are the law when it comes to your marriage. You determine the rules. You determine. And then maybe it won't be accepted by everyone else. Who cares? You two decide what marriage is going to be for you, you know. There is no religious or government or community or family pressure that should determine. You determine. You set the rules, you know. And when you see it like that, I think you get a real release from the whole thing and realise that you can create your own, what works for you. And then, you know, your tenet or your commandments or whatever works for you might not work for us, you know. But what works for us, you know. Yeah. And so we've been able to raise 3 kids and very proud of all our kids. And we've got 7 grandkids.
You better check that.
We've got a cat. We've got a cat who is still our last dependent, you know. But and she runs our life, you know, the little cat. But yeah. So your story. You've got 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Meeting or well, firstly, I know in the previous podcast, family is an extremely important thing. It's a central issue that, in fact, I believe family is something that we need to value, because there's basically in our society an attack on the family.
Do you think it's undervalued at the moment?
I think it's undervalued. I think it's under attack. I think it's sort of it's being cheap. We're not valuing the family as the primary unit for socialising an individual. If you want to have a good individual, a good person in society, you have a good family, and that's the fundamental basis. I mean, and then it's so lovely. I mean, I look at Jonny with Kendra, and she's crawling, and he shows a little. And the attention, and see, we're long past that. Although
Coach Kendra,
Coach Kendra, thank you.
Coach Kendra,
she's not just Kendra.
We're long past that with Elliot, but I mean, you sort of see that, and you think it just reaffirms your whole faith in society, and that things are going well. So Helen and I met a long time ago, friends introduced us. Helen's karate coach was a good mate of mine, and he and his wife or partner at the time said, you should meet this girl. So we were living in Maryborough at the time, and I flew them up in a plane, and
piloted in an aeroplane.
Yeah, and it was a shit night because Brisbane Airport was closed to all traffic, so we were the only plane in the air at the time. We had to land at Redcliffe because Brisbane Airport was closed.
Sure.
And so the air traffic controllers continually tried to affirm that we were operating under the conditions we should have been operating under. And
were you?
Mostly. But, the interesting thing is that friends have no idea. They put their faith in you. They think you're some bloody genius. Paul.
He's got a plane. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that's right. You must know what you're doing. So it was like some sort of movie set where we had to fly through this god awful storm, and then we got to Redcliffe and got a taxi or whatever to Helen's unit in Hamilton, and that's where we met, and when we met it was just like instant lust sort of thing, and then but the relationship obviously blossomed to also having then a huge friendship and a respect, and Helen's such a fiercely intelligent person, and so it moves from the lust to immense respect. But then, mind you, with me, the lust never goes. We're
just got to get older.
We're amazing friends, and that's right. The relationship just grows over a period of time. You're right. There's always little periods where you have to work through some bits and pieces and things like that, and that's it's sage advice you're saying in terms of because a lot of people don't acknowledge if there is issues and things like that, and not only you acknowledging, but you then going forward and doing something as opposed to saying, just throw the towel in and that. And so everyone goes through there, but the point is that as relationships grow, you develop that respect and that growth, and you become just amazing partners together. And the only thing in our life that the only missing link is that we want
grandkids.
Your offspring,
No pressure, Elliot. But grandkids.
Elliot, Griff, you're.
That's right. The
we'll
fact
take
that
5.
Elliot's got such an amazing. We're just so blessed because all we want is for our. And we only got one child because Elliot was a little bastard when he was a kid.
And that was enough.
And you know what? That's enough.
Yeah, that was it. That's it.
One Elliot is a family, really, isn't it? When you think about it.
He's enough. But for him to have something amazing and have an amazing, that's all you need in life.
So you want Elliot to have your experience?
As in
family.
Family, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, family's the whole centre of society. You don't reinvent the wheel. People try and reinvent the wheel, and I think that eventually we'll get back to we stray from values sometimes, but we'll get back to fundamental values because they work. Just as in education, you get back to fundamental educational values. There's all trends and there's all these things that are sort of novel and trendy, but things work. And you get back to things that sometimes you just don't reinvent the wheel. You go back to
but you just do life together. That's how I sort of see it. Like it's not any more than that. We're both doing life, and you just do it together. And you cover for one another. You care for one another, and you help each other. And but you're just doing life together. That's what it is. And it doesn't have to be any more than that. No, and that's where the longevity comes from.
Absolutely.
When you see it like that.
Yeah, and also coming from that is the stability and as an older person, all the if you want to look at indicators of longevity or things like that, you've got to have social connection. You got first. It's around relationships and also social connections. So even people who aren't necessarily in a relationship, as long as they've got good social connections good people who can support them. That's really the fundamental issue. I think someone who can really rely on to support you.
What's the grandparent experience like, Pete and Pete?
You've got grandkids?
I've only got one.
Okay.
But I want more.
Oh, really? Yeah. I want to hand them back, you know. That's always my view. You know, I think what you'll find is you lose currency, you know. Like I brought up 3 kids and I knew how to bring up 3 kids, but, you know, that was a long time ago. And then a grandkid comes along. Like a parent will just get on with their life and in the back of their head they're listening to their kid. When I've got a grandkid in my care, I'm watching them 24/7. I'm on high alert. I've got no instinct to just sort of go and do it. My whole job is to watch them for 24 until they parents come through the door and I hand them back alive. I'm so thrilled about that. But you do lose a certain currency, you know, and even a one night with one grandchild is so stressful. Yeah. One night with one grandchild is just so stressful, you know. But I've got 7 of them now, and I love them. I love them all. It's just wonderful to see. You know, you sort of even miss it in the sense that you just get involved in life and then these things happen and then you just look back and say, wait a minute, I've had 3 kids and 7 grandkids. Where did all that happen? How did that even happen?
Yeah, blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And but I do see myself as which is interesting how the gym really helps me in this, because in the evolutionary terms, my job is done. We've created 2 to replace us plus 1. So we've done a good thing for us.
You've done your bit.
You're my
and you've done well. They're nice ones.
Yeah. They're good. They make a good.
Some evolve.
And you get more and more you get the sense that you're that, you know, the burger gets served in McDonald's in that nice cardboard carton and you eat the burger and you get the cardboard and throw it in. I feel very much that's me. That my job is done. The cardboard now goes in the rubbish bin. And what powerlifting does for me is just sort of says, no, I'm not.
No, you're not done yet.
I'm not done yet, actually. You know, when my grandkids come up and they see all my medals hanging off the wall, you know, they realise that actually he's still an aspirational grandfather, you know. And I think it's a bit like I want to stick my middle finger up and to life and just say, you think I'm just the McDonald's cardboard carton to be disposed of. Actually, I'm not.
No.
Yeah.
I'm actually... I squatted last year the biggest squat for my age and weight in the world.
Yeah.
So
there.
I can't swear because of Alan, but the finger goes up and just the finger goes up and just says, you know what, and that's what Jonny does for me. That's what Fortitude. That's what powerlifting does for me. It allows me to sort of look at the world and just sort of put my finger up and say, you know, I'm not discarded. I still have some aspirations. I can still do stuff that just puts people around me. Because I have students at TAFE, and I often go and train in the gym. And they say, you scare us because you don't come up to us and say, yeah, when I was your age, I used to do that too. You're actually doing it now. You're actually lifting more than me now. You're not in the very present. You outlift us on, I won't talk about bench, but on squat and deadlift, you outlift us. Yeah, that's Ian's lift. But you know, it's just such a wonderful feeling when they look at me and they actually say, these are big guys, they say, you scare us. Because here you are not talking about what you used to lift, but right now you lift more than I do, and I'm pretty proud of how much I lift. So that just blows them away.
Until they saw you lift.
Yeah, until they see that. So it's a bit of a, you know, I'm in this game to do that, just to put a finger up to the whole of life that just says I'm supposed to be now just a grandfather.
That's right. And you're not pigeonholed.
I'm not pigeonholed. I'm actually, no, I'm
not.
If
you went back a generation, you were.
Yeah. Well, that's what this guy that was on the podcast said. You know, he says this is a whole new phenomena that you've got 65-year-old people, and Ian's in that category, actually wanting to achieve stuff. So actually be aspirational. Who would have thought? You know.
And whilst you're still a young fella, we talk of the whole, in a sense, retirement. In the sense, although you're not retired. You know, it's just that as an older person, there's so many things. It's like the next, you know, your life's so rich in that you can do so many things. I mean, I'm lucky that we can probably do things now we didn't have as much. We say not time for, but you know, you can always make time. It's priorities. Life's about priorities and things like that. We say we haven't got time and things like that, but I guess I look upon life as you spend a third of your life preparing for life, a third of your life doing life, and a third of your life then finally enjoying your life.
Actually enjoying it.
These are the better years. I don't know what you think, but I really think...
You've said to me before, and I'll butcher the quote, but you've got more money than you've ever had before, you've got less responsibilities than you've ever had before, and you've got more time than you've had before, so you've got to make the most of what you've actually got and fucking go.
Yeah. And if you can keep your health, and that's the most critical thing. And ex-army, that's very hard because your knees, your ankles, they've had lots of backpacks.
He's sweet.
But I'm just saying.
You got any tape over there, other young people?
No, I've been dead lucky with injuries. I've been one of these
but most ex-army people, they come out and their knees or ankles are wrecked, you know, or back, a lower back. We got teachers that just their lower back is just crushed.
And particularly, you talk about sport. That's right. Look, I remember in Townsville in 1980, the guys that get the cartilage, they do their cartilage, and then the orthopaedic surgeon who I used to have drinks with in Magnetic Island, the whole thing would be out, you know, and they'd whip them out. These days, of course, they're much more conservative. Imagine as a young kid having your bloody medial cartilage or your
just taken out.
Just boom. Yeah.
We'll keep that.
Whole meniscus taken out.
You're right. And that's what happened to me as a young soldier.
And you got bone on bone. And they all do it that way. And then you're going to get arthritis as an old person. There's no two ways about it.
That's right. Well, I was lucky enough to, when I got posted out of my infantry training, I got posted to a battalion here in Brisbane. I arrived after what they generally call Blood Week. And Blood Week is when, you know, the battalion, and we're talking generally 4 or 5 companies, and each company's about 80 to 120 men, have a week's competition of sport, gladiator sport. So all to do with ball sports, you know, Australian rules, rugby union, hockey, you know, soccer, a couple other things thrown in. But there's no lead-up training. If you're a big, heavy man, well, okay, you're front row rugby.
Yeah.
And the digger would say to, you know, the coach, well, I've never played rugby before. Well, now you're going to find out.
Yeah.
And then they go onto the paddock. And with no training, people will get injured, and severe injuries.
Yeah.
So I turned up a week after our battalion just finished Blood Week, and it's known as probably Blood Week, across Army. And I just looked around in fear. I just turned and said, what has happened here? Because people were bandaged up, crutches, you know, broken bones. And so I got filled in about Blood Week, and I just made a conscious decision after that, I've got to be smart here, because if I continue on this path, I'm going to be destroyed. So then I became a very, very good shot. So when it came to sports, I was always in the shooting club or the orienteering club.
That's not going to do your ankles or do your knees.
Correct. And all my mates who had played different sport, and of course when it came to Blood Week, everyone had to play a sport. So I just chose hockey. Because even though we had sticks and they were lethal weapons, I was a fast runner, so I could outrun most sticks.
And it's not collision the same as because you've got in football, you've got collision.
Well, there's rules in those games back then, I imagine, on Blood Week.
That's right. Yeah. They played to rules, but generally, if a company hated another company and there was a lot of rivalry, you know, it was sorted out with fists. You know, as a wall collapsed, you can see elbows and knees going left, right, and centre. But that's how it was. Because these are all
we need to wrap this up so we can get into this food.
So, so at the end of the day, I just said I'm not doing that. And that's why I'm in full health now.
Well done. Well done, Pete.
Yeah. And my mates who
ripped in and got ripped in
are now the ones, the poor
hurting.
You know, hurting, colostomy bags attached to them and all sorts of stuff,
Jesus.
because they're just broken men. So thank goodness for that.
You were... what have we got here, Ian?
So next door to the Woodlands estate is Mosswood. There's some really good estates. I just picked this one because it's probably reasonably well known. But I had
Margaret
River.
I hope you've got a couch here, so you need 3 couches or 2 couches.
I picked a similar vintage to the St Henry actually. And I only picked it because it was a better vintage than the couple of other ones I had. So 2010 was better than 2009 or 2005. So this is a Mosswood Cab Sav.
Yes.
So it's just straight Cab Sav, whereas we had a Bordeaux blend, which was mainly Cab Sav, but with some Merlot and some Malbec in it, which was my favourite. So this one, let's try this virtually next door, grown same region, same everything, but just the Cab Sav, and everyone will recognise that as a sort of a high level Australian, which doesn't come off.
Oh shit! What's happening there?
Look at this.
All good. Bit fancy. Pete, if you hold it close, you'll be able to see it, mate.
Just I'm going to have to. So what's the story with toilet breaks? Because
mate, I think we're there, aren't we?
Typically,
I can't believe it's
Well, I had a loose goal.
It's hours.
To hit 3 hours on this.
No.
50 minutes will be there.
Here,
No.
If anyone needs a toilet break, you can just go for it, and we can continue the chinwag. Because I still got plenty incredible questions.
Yeah, because I might have a quick toilet break because I've got.
Okay.
Well, I'll ask the question then.
Yeah, go for it. Next question.
You can ask.
What do you think of kids today versus back when you grew up, and where they're at?
I'll come in. You guys answer, and I'll come in later. I've got questions.
Careful.
Because the stories you tell of running down rapids and running around in the military and stuff like that, and having aspiration to be a part of that, you don't even see or hear that anymore from what I see from kids. Everyone's, lack of a better word, they're sitting on iPads and that's it. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a bit of truth in that, but I was lucky enough when I was in the military, particularly when I was an instructor at Duntroon, we did a lot of recruiting around Australia for the next intakes. And so I had the opportunity to look at a good cross-section of our community when it come to young men and girls, probably 17 to 19-year-olds.
Yep.
And I was certainly heartened by what I saw. Quite a number, because we probably interviewed, maybe 1,500 to 3,000 kids for an intake of about 120 people. Yep. So we saw enough to have a good look at the cross-section of community. And I was absolutely heartened by what I saw. A lot of people would not make it in the military, but by God, they're going to have a good career in whatever they take. And you can certainly see there is a change of attitudes in society when it comes to how we were raised as kids, and it was pretty much free range.
Yep.
Get out there and get into trouble. And if you are getting in trouble, get yourself out of trouble, because I'm going to find out anyway, and you're going to be in more trouble. To nowadays, where it certainly is, I think the buzzword now is the helicopter parent. Kids can't do a thing without having some intervention. And my wife's a school teacher, and she sees that at school as well. Whereas, I think young people certainly need a bit more responsibility in terms of working out themselves. Don't have the answers for them, because that's how people grow. You need to have challenges and need to know how to cope with loss, with failing something, with not achieving something to your standard. And that's certainly something I think is not quite right in society now. And it's just like Ian was saying a while back, the pendulum swings all the time. And I think...
Currently it's swinging this way.
Yeah, it's swinging this way, but I think we're at a tipping point where it's going to start coming back. And you've seen that in schools and other activities where kids are now encouraged to do things which are classed as dangerous. But stuff that we did as kids, going on the climbing frame without, someone there acting as a safety officer, for goodness sake, and some schools
there's not just a safety officer now, there's a safety officer for the safety officer, and they had to run a risk assessment on that process and ensure they all had qualifications to do that.
Look, it's not a bad thing, because obviously, we're keeping people safe, but I need to see that pendulum swing back a little bit more to the centre line, where people then are still allowed to go and do things, make mistakes, but as long as they learn.
And Pete, you're lucky enough to see some of these kids right now through teaching.
Yeah, it's. I mean, when we were growing up, someone said, I would never be interested in something that didn't have a high chance of dying. Apparently every activity, if it didn't have a high percentage chance of dying, we wouldn't be into it.
Said the guy who's pinned against rapids against the barbed wire back in the 70s. Flood didn't recognise the word flood was dangerous.
I have written, my brother said, we need to sort of try to go through a lot of stuff before we forget. There's things you remember before you forget, because my growing up was physical. It wasn't. There was no digital when I was growing up, and the physical adventures that we went on were just unbelievable. I mean, going up drains in green slopes. You know, we'd go up those big drains, and we'd go up for miles. Really? We'd go up underground drains. We'd just go in at the entry point, and we'd just keep going, and then we'd come up underneath someone's house and we'd tap on their floorboards and yell out. So they must think that there's some sort of ghost underneath, because there's no way you could be under that house. It was built on the ground, but the storm water drain, there was a hole, and we'd get up and we'd tap on their floorboards. So they knew that they were built on the ground, and they must have thought, there's people still today thinking that there's ghosts under that house, because there would be some tapping on the floorboards underneath. But that was just us kids. And then we'd come to one of those manholes in the street, and we'd take the manhole off and look around, or we'd come up to a thing, and the taxi driver would stick his head out and tell us what we were doing. No, just crazy stuff. Yep. But that was the same feeling that the kids get by taking on a video game and trying to beat it and go into a cave and fight. They get the same feeling, but we actually were doing it for real. And I don't know whether I'm really, as a parent, I'm just so grateful that my kids didn't do what I did, because there was a high probability of dying in what I did.
Well, they die in the video game.
Yeah, well, they do it on the video, and then they just push refresh, and they come back again.
You're right.
Respawn. But we didn't get respawn, we just had to sort of do it. But I don't know whether it's, I don't know whether it's any less. As a parent, I was really grateful that they didn't take the risks that we took, But it was a completely different.
More risk averse then?
Yeah, as a parent, I became very risk averse. I didn't want my kids doing anything. That's why I never told them my stories until they're all grown up and got kids, so they know that not to go and do it.
They respect it.
And so now I can go and write about. My brother's got me writing the things I remember before I forget. That's the title of the pod, not the pod, but the writing. And I've written, quite a few stories about me growing up and the things I remember before I forget. But they were all highly crazy stuff. Getting into the train line at Nunda and sticking our head up between the things and waving to the train driver as he approached. And then as he would come, then we'd all duck down because we were on the bridge. We were on the going over the bridge. You could stand on the pylon, stand up between the track, wave to him as he's coming to you, all these kids on their own. And then as he'd come close, you'd just duck down, because you had to turn your head like this, because if you went down straight away, you get your chin short. Caught, and so you'd turn your head to the side and you'd go down and he'd go over the top, and forever he's talking about these, telling his grandkids about not doing that. But I don't know whether I think of my kids as lesser because they didn't do that. I think they're smarter, different. So to get our adrenaline, because as a kid you think that it'll never happen to you, but it does. My dog died, drowned in the, and that could have been my brother or could have been me, So I'm not I think the kids today, I like the idea of a virtual risk as opposed to the risks that I sort of faced,
But long as I guess parents have to be held not accountable but responsible for passing on values, core values to their children. That's important, and to see kids disappear in the electronic world, okay, that's great, but there still needs to be something that has to be done where parents still need to impart values. And I did that with my son, called manhood training. Manhood training.
Oh, okay.
And it was just one of these bizarre things that my wife found, because she's goes to church regularly. And it was when Mike was a 15-year-old, and he wasn't going off the rails. He's a good kid. However, she went to church and came back and said, hey, church has got this thing on, the male pastors are having all the kids called manhood training. So I looked it up online, and sure enough, I just said, well, I can actually do this with Mike. And it was just broken down into 6 different chapters. It's all about, sexual responsibility and, all different topics like that. And so I just adapted it to just he and I one-on-one sessions. And so I delivered it to Michael over a 6-week period. Each weekend, Saturday afternoons, it was manhood training. And then we finished with Mike facing one of his fears, which was a fear of sharks.
Really?
And it just happened to coincide with Anzac Day up here in Brisbane. We were down at Sydney at the time. My dad was up here, and so was my brother. And my dad's brother, my uncle, came across from New Zealand. And so they were ex-veterans. My brother was in the military, and I was still in the military at the time. And so I said to him, hey, I'm doing this course with Michael. We're coming up for Anzac Day anyway. Can I bring him up? He does the march with us.
Yep.
And then we make him face his fear, which is the fear of sharks.
What
so
an
we then took him up
experience.
to Mooloolaba, where they have the aquarium.
In the dive with sharks.
In dive with the sharks.
No
and
way.
so we did that, and that was the culmination of his manhood training to face fears and to do it in a logical way where, you're not... And Mike still talks about that, but I see his development as a man, and he's got great set of values. He respects everyone, and he keeps saying, I had a difficult decision the other day. I had to do this or that, but I just thought about the manhood training. What would you have done, Dad? And I did it like this.
It's got to be a proud moment as a father to hear him still reference that.
Yeah. And it was just something that my wife drew my attention to, and I just saw the value in that. I thought, this is, if I don't take advantage of this is just insane.
Yeah.
And it's put him in good stead, and he just knows telling the truth or owning up and being responsible for your actions far outweighs trying to dodge the issue. And it's got him out of trouble so many times. He'll just face his boss and say, look, I've done this.
Yep.
And rather than, he'd get his ass kicked, of course. But, guys always say, I've got a lot of respect for you. You've shown integrity. You've fronted up and faced me. And I can't sack you because you're such a good man. Yeah. Good stuff.
That's
really good.
My feeling is, I've never... As a parent, you want to take credit for your kids. You just want to, ever since they're like 2 or 3 months, 8 months.
I taught them to growl.
You just want to. But I've resisted all my life because I've never known how my kids will turn out.
It worked out so far.
Well, luckily Gwen had a lot to do with my kids, and I was more the stick, that they just grew up alongside. But now that they're 40. You can look back and go, wow, I did it. Maybe not me, but together, those kids, you can't really take credit for your kids until you've seen them get through an awful lot of life,
No, that's right. And they've all had their challenges.
Oh, they would have, but and that's what you want to see. That at 40, they're stable, adjusted, contributing members of society, not coming back to us. My grandfather used to say, your best investment, and this is financial, is in your kids. Yeah. The best financial investment. Because if your kids at age 28 or 30 come back to you because of some, stuffed up life, you're going to be out of pocket an awful lot of money. But if you've invested in your kids
smart advice.
And the investment was always just health and education. That's all he said. You don't have to buy them a car, a house. He just said invest in their education, invest in their health, and invest in them as people. And I've just watched my kids, and 2 of them have now made it to 40, and just so proud of them now. And I finally can take credit for them, because up until now, I don't know. And then when you see them at 40, creating their own families and being wonderful fathers and wonderful partners to their partners, and you just, that's when I feel you can sit back and say,
that's right.
We've done well.
Particularly when you see your values echoed in what they do.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Do you start seeing some of the things you encapsulated in them starting to come down, but obviously with a filter?
Gwen was the skills. My wife was the skills. She would be the one to take them around the block, get them to find their way home, and all that sort of stuff. And I just lived. I just lived, and I just hoped that some of the way I lived and the way I related to my partner, Gwen, and the way I conducted myself in terrible times, sort of rubbed off. I remember my daughter, who's now 28. When she was 5, my wife and I were sitting in the lounge at the demise of our cafes at that time. We were looking at bills that were far greater than our ability to pay, and we just thought, this is the end, And quite morbid and depressed and all that sort of stuff. And my daughter came in, 5-year-old daughter, and she'd got her money box. And she'd emptied it out. And she said, it's okay. This is Sue. She says, it's okay, Dad. You can have all my money. Wow. I've got $5.20 here.
That's
just
incredible.
Take this, and that'll solve your problem.
Did you have a tear at that point?
Oh, she just couldn't understand. Instead of being happy why I was crying, she didn't understand. Why are you crying, Dad? I've solved your problem. But she gave up all the money that she had,
literally everything,
to the whole of her worldly goods, to save us, and luckily not luckily, but we worked our way through that issue. But when you see that in your kids, you just think, oh, that's just wonderful. And she's gone on and she just sent a post of her latest grandson to me, and just showing how he's just so full of life. It's just wonderful. He actually looks like me. So I've told. She said that. She said you actually looks an awful lot like you. So that'll be interesting.
I think we are better off for more Baskervilles.
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty rare. It's I guess the trouble with Harvey is I had a couple of Harveys in my class, but they aren't relatives apparently. Whereas when you've got Baskerville, there's a pretty good chance that they are
a common name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly in Australia, I don't know. Probably originate from the UK.
That's right. And so when you see the name, when you see the name, you know that they must be a relative. So
I had a Baskerville working for me. And his nickname was Hound. Funny enough.
Yeah. That's all you get.
Hound. Yeah.
Is that a slang for?
Well, the Hound at the Baskervilles is Sherlock Holmes. Yeah.
So he's always known as Hound.
What do you? We'll get close to the close, lads, and we'll see where this takes us.
Sure.
What do you guys see for the next, let's call it 20 years, for yourselves individually? Because you're semi-retired and/or retired, or looking to retire.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? What do you do to find some fire? Like, what do you keep doing? What keeps you driving?
No.
He leads off, I lead off, you lead off.
Yeah. That's your turn this time.
I never answered that. I just answered the last question too. That with parenting and kids and things like that. I just got to say that with Elliot, initially I sort of tried to push him too hard, but Elliot and Helen tried to give him the opportunities that she never had. But then we quickly struck a balance, and we couldn't be proud. He's an amazing kid, and we couldn't be prouder of him. But you asked the question of how we see kids today, and I'm a little bit perturbed that kids today are a little bit snowflakey and a little bit because we all had real and present danger, and in activities that I did as well, and I said I think we could never be proud of him, but I make the overall observation not of him but of other kids that there's this generation of don't get me started with things like trigger warnings and things like all these things that I think that kids need to be exposed to things on a wide range of things to help them grow and become mature people. And life's not sanitized. Sometimes life's raw and things like that. But anyway, the question was that was just a very quick aside from me answering the last question because I went out and did a wee.
And thanks for sharing that.
Was it a good wee?
Yeah, it's a great wee. Yeah. So, otherwise, I'd be sitting here sort of using the pelvic floor exercises Helen taught me in Pilates to try and control things. But
what do you do for the next 20?
The 20. It's a great thing.
Because if I interject, Pete's fired up for it.
Yeah.
Are you boys fired up for it?
Yeah. But look, it's just
because plenty aren't.
It's just as I said, first third you prepare for life. This next third you work your guts out, and I got to say that all of us would have had a commitment to work, and that's the other thing is that no one's done. We all worked hard, and the message I'm sure if we delve down into both the Petes, they all had a commitment and worked fucking hard, you know. And so there's no there's no shortcut. You all work hard.
Sorry, Helen.
The last third of your life, you can. But it's not just about fulfilling your own ambitions. It's also about enriching other people, and also about being a member of a community. And this is what I mean. I don't want to start getting to. This is something that you're fostering a community, and it does so much. And we are individuals, but also we're members of communities, and we have responsibilities. So with rights comes responsibilities, and so we have responsibilities to others around us, and so I just think that if we can get back to that idea of community and friendships and care and things like that, and one of the big blessings we've had is we've met, since we've been back in Brisbane, we've met lots and lots of different people and things like that, and you engage sometimes on different levels, but sometimes you'll engage in a level where you're actively helping people, and you get the privilege to help those people. And so I really think that it's an exciting period for me to develop that sense of not only our own individual achievements, but the way as a community we can move together and help each other and support each other, and help and support other people make their lives better and also achieve what they want to achieve. And so again, it comes back to something that you do. You're helping people achieve things that they want to achieve, and that's a community thing. And I don't think there's anything better, to be honest, because I think that's where, if we never lose sight of that, our culture and our the direction we're going in will be in a good direction. When we lose sight of that, the direction we're going in will go to shit, because we're suddenly become overly preoccupied with resentment, with grievances, with the fact that, you know, it's always someone else's fault. And it's the fact is, they always say, "What ask not what the country can do for you, but you can do for you, us." You know, what you can do to help to be lift and raise other people up. And I'd finish on the fact that a hero of mine is Solzhenitsyn said when he was in the Gulag languishing, he could have blamed the state, blamed everyone, but he blamed himself for not being a better person. He said it all starts with you. So in the next 20 years, it starts with me. If I want a better society, a better place, it starts with me making it from my family, from my relationships, from my friends, from my community, everything. That's where I can do the real difference, and that's where I can make it.
Yeah, try and beat that, Pete.
Oh, no. You know, as a teacher, you get the chance to sort of do a bit more research than probably you do as a sort of a layman. And so, you know, I've sort of looked into this guy called, I think it's Erickson, talks about the 8 stages of life, and I'm certainly in the 8th stage. And he talks about the things that motivate people in the 8th stage. And the overwhelming thing is to give back. You know, and so I'm just so grateful that my career that has been through so many different morphs, you know, for one of my bosses said, you know, the way in which you can reinvent yourself, which you've got to do. But this last reinvention is to become a teacher, and that teacher is the chance to give back. And this Erickson talks about in stage 8, what you most want to do. Either you will stagnate, which means you'll just go off into irrelevance and be the garbage, the McDonald's package that gets thrown in the bin. Maybe you'll be that.
Finish at the finish line a bit sooner than you expected then, because
or you can make your life. No, I'm fine, thanks. But you can make your life to give back. And as a teacher, I'm just so blessed that my last in this last stage, stage 8, I find myself as a teacher where I can, all those failures, all those mistakes I made become now valuable learning for a new cohort of people that are facing life, and they listen to me and they go, oh, I see, that worked, that didn't work, you know. And so I think for me the next 20 years is 100% giving back, you know, giving back to either in my teaching. I plan to be a teacher and to share my knowledge. I write extensively online in a platform called Quora, and I've answered about 22,000 questions, you know, which
Top
is
writer.
Yeah.
Helen asked me about Quora, and I know about Quora.
Yeah.
It's a great forum.
Yeah, it's a great platform.
I like Quora, and I talked to them another thing called Quillette, which I actually like a lot too. But Quora is a great forum.
Well, I've been in Quora from day one. You know, the day they released it to public, I joined, and so my membership is 20,000 on a platform that's now 400 million.
Yeah,
so I'm in the top 20,000 of people that joined, and so I was there, and I've since earned 6 Top Writer Awards, and there was only ever 6 years where they ran that program. So I won Top Writer for 6 years. And
ever since powerlifting with me.
and there is a relationship between writing and powerlifting. There was some crazy thing that as I was powerlifting, so was my cognitive ability to write. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and it amounts to about 1 million words. So that ability to give back is what the next 20 years is for me. You know, how can I give back either in sharing my experiences on Quora or as a teacher, or just even in my immediate family, giving back to my grandchildren, giving back to my children, giving them advice when they ask for it. I'm not going to give it to them when they don't ask for it. You know, and being still seeing myself as a valuable, not the discarded McDonald's container, but seeing myself as a valuable contributor.
And Jonny, the thing called personal, practical, not, there's different. As a teacher, you'd realise there's different things you can impart to teach, but the thing called personal, practical knowledge, which older people have. Through a lifetime, you've learnt things. And one of the issues is younger people, and this goes towards, I guess, the earlier question, sometimes find it hard to relate to older people, but if you can sit there and listen to them and cut through the whole thing, that personal practical knowledge gives you a shortcut in life, because you've distilled through years and years and years a fast track that you've taken your ages. And if people, and this is the problem, is that if they've just got we take something for granted, or it's something that you think everyone would know, but it's not. And the younger people think, why should I bother? So if we can get together with younger people and older people, and they can distill that personal practical knowledge. If I was a younger person today, I'd be knocking on the door of all these other people and saying, you tell me, certainly, you take home tip. Give me a couple of take home tips. I've got a book here. I only want to write in about 3 or 4 things. Tell me what I should write in. You tell me. And I reckon if I did that with enough people, a young person, I'd be so far ahead of the pack. I'd be. It's hard to say.
You reckon they'd listen?
I'd be young people.
Yeah, you reckon the young ones would listen?
Yeah,
Just got to yell loud enough, though, hey?
But you're going to
It goes both ways.
No. I think as a young person, you've got to actually ask old people that stuff. And I remember as a junior bar at David Jones, I would have been in my early 20s.
Junior bar. Which section?
Ladies' lingerie. And
yes.
And I used to ask older people, I say, what is it that I need to know? And
so let me, correct me if I'm wrong, you knew what the ladies wanted to wear.
I knew. I know what a D and a C and a B cup.
Jonny said
all that sort of stuff.
Jonny told me, she said you're a diesel fitter.
No, that's not me.
No, he said the woman would come in and say diesel fitter.
Oh, yeah.
Diesel won't.
Yeah.
Diesel won't.
I used to have some guys come into the ladies' lingerie sometimes and say, can you get something that fits this? It's about that.
And were you generally right? Were you generally on the mark?
You're probably talking D cup. You know, come with me. We've got you on that. But I used to ask people as a younger person. I used to say, "What do I need to know?" And they all said to a person, "Life's short. It's incredibly short. I can't believe that I'm 60 now. I still feel like what happened to my life.
It's just gone.
And when I saw that in older people, I thought, well, I'm not going to miss. I'm going to realise that life's short and make sure that I invest my time really, smartly, I guess. And that's what I've endeavoured to do.
Yeah, the bit of memory lane. How much were you paid a week? I worked in Woolworths in Queen Street, and in a similar time to you, so over the holidays, obviously, but I was paid $35 a week. So how many hours?
Yeah, I think.
That's a whole week.
For a fucking week.
$4 for a Saturday morning, but I was paid $35
for a day.
As a buyer, I was paid about $1,000 a week. So that's as a buyer. I remember that pay.
You paid $1,000
because $1,000 a week. A week, not a week, was it? No. Sorry.
Paid $1,000
yeah, 17,000 a year I used to make. Oh, sorry. So it's 500. How much is that?
That's
$500. No, so $300 a week. 3 5s are 50. Sorry, $300 a week. $300 a week as a buyer.
Yeah.
So 17,000 a year.
When I worked in, I was 16 or 17, whatever it is, and worked at Woolies in Queen Street back in the 70s. So it would have been probably 74, 75. I was paid $35 a week. Yep. And when we turned 18, they only kept that's a whole heap. They only kept 2 of us on.
Yeah, because you became expensive. You were like $37.50 a week.
What's the next 20 for you, Pete, young Pete? Yeah. Where do you see it? What do you want to do? How do you...
Well, he's still a young man. He's still got...
Because the reason I ask, and this is something
he's still got to earn a living.
I jokingly said to Pete before, is as my side project, I work at Prince Charles, a little bit of security, and you see some people who are not in a good way, for lack of a better word, and... we get privy to their ages, depending on why I'm looking at it from a security perspective. And then all of a sudden, they're not much older than you, but lack of a better term, they're fucked.
Yeah.
You guys are kicking ass.
Yeah, and I guess, to paraphrase what these two gents have just said, the key for me is, for the next 20 years, certainly family and I've fostered such a good family environment that that's just a nice maintenance now to continue on. But the thing that I really need to focus on is the giving back.
Yeah.
I've certainly done a lot in my time, particularly with the military, but now is the tipping point where my wife certainly has been saying it for a number of years now. You need to get into mentoring.
Yep.
You've got mentoring young folk. She said you've got the right mentality, you've got the right attitude, you can orate okay. And
you can talk okay too.
Yeah, that's right. And so I've been thinking about
You do go on a bit.
Probably too much. Anyway, I still talk when my wife's asleep. Oh, you're asleep.
Oh, she's asleep. No.
You've missed all my good lines.
I should record it and you can listen to it in the morning.
No, Pam, just talk. Yeah.
And that was the key, So now it is working out the right area in which to mentor, whether it's the homeless kids or kids that are really struggling. And I know through Kerry's church at Marumba Downs.
What church does she
at Marumba Downs?
What sort of church does she worship at? No.
It is a what are the happy clappers called?
Pentecostal.
No.
Yeah, it is a Pentecostal.
Oh, nice.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
happy clappers, and it's a magnificent church.
No, I'm not asking that out of
Bridgman Downs, actually, Bridgie.
Yeah, out of genuine interest. Because,
and it is a wonderful church. I don't go to church myself, but I certainly support all their activities, particularly before COVID when they were going out with work parties, helping the underprivileged people that need it.
Absolutely.
I'll throw myself at everything. And I know they have fantastic mentoring programs, and that's what Kerry said, you really need to get on board.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And well, thank you, but I know that is the way
I think you, both of you, I mean, you're already mentoring people as a teacher, whether you realise it or
as
not.
a teacher you do it,
But you, sir, as well.
Yeah.
But it just needs that.
I've got to have the avenue to do it because, and the contact with kids.
And that's the thing. It's just coming to the point where you have to be ready to do that as well.
True that.
And I know that I'm just about there. I don't know what the measurement is, but the more I think about it, because I have a lot of time to reflect when I'm driving buses for council, when you sort of look at all those options, particularly when you see kids on the street.
Probably a few that could be mentored that come onto that bus.
And you look at them going, oh, you poor buggers, you know. All you need is someone just to, you know, be there for you to, you know, bounce ideas off. And so, yeah, I know it's becoming stronger, and I sense that it is pulling me there. And I just know it is. When, I hope it's soon. But again, it's just one of those decisions that you know when it's time. So, and I want to certainly do that within the next couple of years to let us kick on for the next 20 or so. For sure.
And to give you guys, like for a better word, more purpose as well.
Well, that's exactly right, Jonny. You know, you need a purpose in life. And I know when I left Defence, I was lost. And I didn't think I would be. But after 34 years of service, the day I woke up as a civilian, it sort of... I was right for probably 2 weeks, I think. And then I just looked around and said, what am I doing now? And it scared me and it freaked me out. And funny enough, I went and sought help because Defence has a great support network. And I just went straight back to Defence and said, I'm struggling. I am struggling. I have no idea where I'm heading. And with a good set of counselling, then it just repurposed me. And then I found a purpose in life. Funny enough, it's bus driving. And it's not the fact you're driving a bus, it's the fact of you're helping communities. The underprivileged, people who cannot drive because they have some sort of impairment. You know, it's the mothers in prams, it's the old people that need to get to appointments. And so all of a sudden, you know, as bizarre as it sounds, that is a great purpose. You just don't realise.
I'd love to catch your bus.
We'll need to finish this soon, Jonny, because the wine is kicking in.
That's exactly what I was hoping
Did you empty all of that? Come on, more. That's it.
All right, boys. What I'll do is, towards the end, as you know, all three of you have been on here before, as we do ask 10 questions.
Sure.
As you should know, because you are all three avid
seasoned
listeners and across.
We'll still get it wrong though, won't we?
Often, and
we'll still get the
questions. So what I do in case that is the actual scenario is I change the questions.
Okay.
Are you ready? I'm thinking we go young Pete, old Pete, Ian. As the rolling scale, as you know, because you've all been here before. It is
Let's do it.
Rapid fire.
Let's get it done.
First thing that jumps in your brain / mind. Battery switched off. And I'd just like to say before we do get towards the end, it is a PB. This is our longest podcast yet.
Ever in the whole world.
How long is it?
How long?
We're probably sitting
30
at...
minutes, 30 minutes?
Yeah, 39 minutes. I don't know. Somewhere on here tells me the answer to that, but we're there. All right, sweet. Pete, young Pete, what'd you have for dinner last night?
Are you right for this question? I mean, it is in depth.
That was a big question.
It is. It is getting very personal.
Sorry, that's, the wine's just gone down.
Okay, chicken and vegetable stir fry.
Who made it?
My wife.
Delicious?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Uber. We got Uber.
You got Uber anyway?
Yeah, we got Uber satay chicken.
From where?
Was what we got. I don't know. From no, they're very nice. Mai Tai or something. Something like that.
Fine,
So we had satay chicken. Yep. What about you? Yeah, it's nice.
We had lamb chop. I've got this fascination for lamb cutlets.
Yes.
And so whenever
So does Kendra actually. That was her first meat eating.
Absolutely, they love it. They call them little kids call them lollipops.
Because you fucking grab and eat them.
Yeah, you eat them. Absolutely. And so you trim them off. So we get the. I always came Woolies and.
Aiden approved, I hope.
Sorry.
Aiden approved, I hope.
He's approved it. And we had veggies and the trimmed lamb chops and some sweet potato chips.
Lovely.
And then we had some Aiden approved. YoPro, 15% protein yogurt.
Correct.
And that's it, all happy days.
Wow.
I might jump in this with you lads. I had beef short ribs and air fried chippies. I win.
Air fried.
And your dual air fryer. Yeah, he's got amazing.
Do you have an Uber? Can we order from you? Can,
when you finish this, as you know, the lovely Jaylee will be on the outside of the store. You can take up that with her if you're interested. The boot of your car, Pete, what's in there?
A box full of bike repair stuff.
Push bike?
Yep.
With that one that had the flat?
Yep.
Correct.
That's why it's in my boot.
The bike still has a flat?
Still has a flat?
Yep. Excellent.
All my training gear, all my wraps.
In the most important location.
Wraps and shoes and stuff. Yep.
So I've got in our car there's octopus straps. There's a net with restraint things.
Restraint things.
Restraint things.
Ian, would you like to tell us more about that?
Only for parcels, not for. We got other restraints at home for the Japanese art we indulge in. Shibari. And then I've got a cold steel carbon fibre baseball bat. I've got a coal bag. I've got
Is that for baseball?
No, it's it could be. It could be because I sometimes go in the park and play baseball.
Sure.
It could be. And
of course you do.
I've got a coal bag and I've got a pop-up little box and I've got a first aid kit and I've got silk bags that we take to the shopping.
You are far more prepared than all of us.
I think you made half of that.
Yeah, in the back of my car is baby things.
That's true. That's true.
And I have a desk I bought off mydeal.com.au that's meant to be right here, but it's not. We have this from outside. Pete, I reckon this one will be a pretty quick answer. When's the last time you changed your bed sheets?
Yesterday.
All you military lads and
No, in fact, today's Saturday.
Ladies are very
This morning.
in that response.
Once a week, without fail.
I've never changed my bed sheets.
Yeah, that's not unexpected.
But Gwen changes them.
Somehow or other, they're magically changed.
It's some sort of like it's a magic thing, but every Sunday the bed sheets do get changed.
Mine was yesterday because we actually looked at your last podcast and the Helen said, change your fucking bed sheets because he's going to ask you that.
Smart woman.
And so the bed sheets were changed yesterday.
Well done.
Pete Sheldon, middle name. What goes in between that?
I don't have one.
You're straight up zero. None.
Straight up zero.
Same as Jay Lee.
There you go.
No way. I love it. Is that, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, brothers and sisters.
And
they don't have
they've
middle
got
names.
nothing in the middle as well?
No.
Cool.
Yeah. But if I did have a middle name,
What would it be?
it would be Ian and Stuart.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I've got a Stuart in the
Nice.
middle of mine.
Oh, nice. Good on you. Yeah.
What would you want? A URAT or an STWART?
Oh, look, it doesn't matter.
It does. You want to be
Does
Stuart
it?
with an ER.
Oh, I'll do an ER.
Yeah, thank you.
And my name's Peter Sheldon, so...
Peter
fill in
Stuart Sheldon.
the- Peter Ian Stuart Sheldon.
Lovely.
Ian's a nice name. Yeah.
No one's worked out.
out.
No one's worked out the acronym yet. All right.
Hang on. P-I... Yeah. Biz.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's a bad dad joke.
My parents were very religious, so I got Peter John.
Oh, lovely.
Peter John.
John, that's the epistle of John. Elliot, our son Elliot only has one name.
Is he only got one Elliot?
He's got no
Nothing
middle
in the
name.
middle.
We didn't know whether it was a boy or a girl. Well, no,
We still don't.
No.
We still don't know.
We're very clear.
Sorry, Elliot.
We're very,
He does have a bun.
You got progressive.
yeah, we're very progressive. No, when we were selecting names, we thought of Lydia, and that rhymed with chlamydia. So we said, that's no good.
No,
and then we thought of Paige, and that was sort of trend. So we thought, Elliot, we love Elliot. So he better be a boy. And we had any other names? No. So we only had one name.
You went all in on Elliot.
One name.
We
One boy.
through the house.
Job done.
Went all in, like roulette. Everything on Black 21, and that was it. And it came good for us.
Well done.
I'm Ian Neil because my dad's Neil. And interesting that so many old timers always call me Neil.
Really?
And because it could be Neil Harvey as a cricket. I don't know what.
You do look a little Neil.
Neil. There's a lot of Neil about
Not
me.
a lot Neil, but a little bit
A
Neil.
lot of people call me Neil. I don't know what the fuck they call me Neil. But Dad was Neil, and so it was that.
Stop swearing.
Hey, Helen said.
Yeah. She said I could do a little bit towards the end. Little. She just.
Well, you haven't used a C word, so that's good.
C-bomb. No, there's no C-bomb. We watched a movie called.
I'm glad these are short answers.
Anyway, I'll tell you about the movie later on. They had the C-bomb in it. It was good. It was well placed. So basically, yeah, Ian Neil.
Ian Neil.
Yeah.
All right.
Ian
Okay.
Neil.
Jonathan Stewart. STWART, in case wondering.
Wow,
That's
that's huge.
For those who really want to know the answer, it is B for Brow. Johnny B. Bad.
It's Brad.
Yeah, Jonny B. Bad. So the last name's Bad.
Oh.
That's how I'm Jonny B. Bad.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I
it makes
didn't realise
sense.
that.
Yeah, no, that's how it is.
Oh wow, that's a revelation for me. Yeah, that's
The first
right.
cassette CD record, perhaps, for the audience you've ever owned.
Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell.
Oh, tribute. Rest in peace.
How good was that?
Probably Neil Diamond. Wait. Neil Diamond. What's the live at? Not live at the Greek. Hot August Night. Thank
Hot
you.
August Night.
Well,
Thank you.
This is a record or a CD?
Whatever piece of music you own.
Well,
What was before records, Pete?
it was record.
There was the eight. There was the
I'm
8-track.
record.
There was
I
the.
got- I'll preface this. The first piece of music was Christoph Eisenbach's Hammer Clavier Sonata by Beethoven. But I've got to tell you that was a Hammer Clavier Sonata because I love piano. So,
Yeah, sure.
but which is but having said that, I started listening to modern music when I was in the army. So I went up to Townsville in 1980, and then the first real music I listened to was either probably Dire Straits making movies or Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell.
Whoa.
There you go.
And Bad Out of Hell was just and so it was a whole new world because as a kid all I listened to was classical music, and when I went in the army I suddenly thought there's something else. other
Whoa.
than that.
Nice.
I think it was Billy Cyrus.
Billy Cyrus.
Achy Breaky Heart.
Oh wow.
I remember having his cassette.
That was deep.
having Michael Jackson cassette.
That was deep.
So it was either of those two.
Okay.
No, and I had a record, and I can't remember what the fuck that was. Perhaps Mum could give us a shout out on that. Last dream you had. Pete.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. We go big, bro.
Look, it's the most bizarre thing. I know I dream,
Yeah.
but I wake up and I forget them instantly. And I cannot tell you the last vivid dream I've ever had.
Well,
I had the same problem. Like
Yeah.
last night, I had this really vivid dream. I knew all about it.
Was it good?
I woke
Did
up
you
with
feel
it,
like it was good?
and I've got no idea what it
You
was.
feel like it was good, though? Did you wake
It
up
was
like-
good.
Yeah.
It was good, but
Yeah,
it was.
but
I got no idea.
Yeah, and yet-
In fact, when I woke up, I said, "I'll remember that," and I didn't remember it.
I agree.
It's bizarre.
no, I had a recent dream. I can tell you exactly. Often a recurrent dream I have was where somehow I haven't got any clothes on. It may be because
Of course, makes perfect sense.
and
Are you sure it was a dream?
Don't start acting it now.
I'm just in this public area, and I think I'm just going to try and wing my way through this. But I got to tell you, this is the most bizarre dream I have ever had. Which was,
That's perfect.
You need to know this. Is that
You were naked.
no. I had this dream that I was a forensic pathologist chasing a baby killer in Zilmir. This is Zilmir.
That's
okay?
very specific.
Has to be Zilmir.
Yeah, and so there's someone's killing the babies in Zilmir.
That's
And
north
so
side.
I was a forensic reporter, and anyway, I suddenly was there under this house, this bloody Zilmir high-set house, choking a baby.
Whoa, you were choking.
So it was you.
Realising it was me, and then I had to try and get away from the place without people thinking. I had this sense of embarrassment that really the person I was chasing
Was you?
me.
Damn, bro.
That's
Wow.
deep, isn't it? And
We need to get a dream catcher on that and debunk it.
can I look after Kendra tomorrow?
Yeah, no, totally.
Would you mind?
No,
dear.
I need to check your blue card. Don't take dreams into account.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm in the same boat as you two boys. It's one of those experiences
Yeah.
you wake up and you're like,
Yep.
It was very real,
something
but I got no idea.
fucking cool happened. Or
That's right.
scary, extreme
Yep,
other
yep.
side.
You wake
you're
up with the
like-
emotion,
Yeah.
but you cannot remember.
Yeah, it's called lucid dreams. You got to train yourself. It was a lucid dream. You got to try and train yourself so you remember it. And because
So
Indian,
there's a training component to it.
Indian tribes use dreams as a part of their sort of prediction and their life thing. So lucid dreams mean you can sort of like remember them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
You're almost, lack of a better word, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, you're almost there. What are you going to do when you retire, if you haven't already?
Give back to society.
Yeah. What are you doing, Pete?
My family history is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So certainly I will.
Your father did what?
My father and grandfather and on my mother's side and father's side, it's pretty interesting.
Served the war.
My mother goes all the way back to Sir Philip Sidney, So that's and she's documented all that, and she's got all. I held a document the other day that was from 17 before Australia became Australia. I'm holding a document that was written before Australia, a document.
Wow.
That was dated before that, and I'm holding it in my hand. I'm going, whoa! And then on my father's side, you know, my father's work in World War One with a Lancaster bomber in 460 Squadron is quite an amazing thing. So I run 2 websites around that and promoting that and inviting people. So I think that's a really interesting thing for me.
Shout out.
Oh, just Friends of 460 Squadron is one, and Bomber Command is another website that I manage.
And I'll interject on these questions, but what was the odds of someone surviving being a bomber pilot?
Yeah, about 50%.
Yeah,
you know, half actually their squadron got wiped out 5 times. As a squadron of 200 personnel, and they lost 1,000 people. So they lost their squadron 5 times. And my dad, who had to do 30, he was meant to do 30 tours, but he did 31 because one of the crew members was sick one day. And so rather than send him up on his own with another crew, they said, let's all do it together.
Yeah.
So they all did 31, and they flew into flak.
Yeah.
They flew into
Being shot at.
bombs exploding in front of them, and they did that 31 times, you know, and on the squadron they were wiped out 5 times, and
He would have lost so many friends.
it was the highest rated casualty of the entire war for Australians. It was the highest. 460 Squadron was the squadron that lost the most personnel of any other fighting force, you know, and those guys did it. And he was a 21-year-old pilot, you know, just such a brave, but not just him, but that whole generation. And so I run 2 websites to sort of honour that generation. And my mum's dad ran Turkey Mill in UK, which was the preferred paper used by all governments in the world and all the printers and politicians and all that. And my grandfather's activity was to cut out the logos of the letters that they would get and paste them in an art form. So I've actually got those.
Oh, wow.
I've got the Prince of Wales. I've got the King of England. I've got that. I've actually got their letterhead.
Space.
Yeah, and I have from my dad a signed Adolf Hitler citation, because straight after the war, a month after the war, he flew over with a group and they went through the Reichstag and all that sort of stuff. And he came back with all this paraphernalia.
You have that.
And I actually have that.
Yeah.
And it's a signed citation from Adolf Hitler.
So we're a museum of the Baskerville.
It's like
fucking Hillcrest.
I've got this museum that because I bought my mum and dad's place, no one threw anything out, so I've got it all inherited, and I've got to go through it and sort of look at each document and say, should I throw it out? And it's really hard to decide whether to throw it out.
You know what you're doing in retirement.
So you know, when you've got all that in your possession, that's a big part of what I want to do going forward, is to digitise that and to share it with the world, obviously. Anyway, sorry, Ian.
Do you have any letters on band on Hitler at all?
No.
Loser.
But I can tell you, Helen and I were on a French cruise once with Manu Fidel, and there was and the photographer's boyfriend, his grandfather apparently flew out. He was trying to fly Mussolini. He was a German pilot flying Mussolini out of the imprisonment or something.
He didn't get away with it.
Oh no, apparently.
Oh really?
Mussolini's a big.
I thought they
fat
hanged
bastard.
him.
I can't use the C word. The big fat bastard.
Trouble.
And so he was flat out trying to get the plane to get altitude before they flew. It was one of these sort of amazing. Anyway, so you're asking me about retirement, though.
Retirement,
And,
correct.
See, I've been retired since 2016. So
That's good.
So basically, I don't think I'd change anything.
Yep. Keep doing it.
Keep doing it, and then prefacing it by we've already talked about what the next 20 years holds.
Yeah.
And so
Grandchildren. Shout out Greer Elliott.
Absolutely.
Come on, Elliot.
Yeah,
come on. Stump up, Elliot. Come on.
Let's go.
We're counting on you.
There's two involved in it, but we're basically we're happy as pigs in mud, and we just want to then further what we said in the next 20 years in terms of trying to, I've already said it.
Okay.
My 20 years will be very simple, encapsulate what all you kids have done and do it. That's it, as a father.
That's beautiful.
Your morning routine, sir.
Morning routine, pretty much the same every day. Get out of bed.
Yes.
Make the bed.
Make the bed.
Do your ablutions.
Ablutions?
Ablutions.
What's that?
That means go to the toilet.
Ablutions?
Have a shower.
Clean the teeth. Shower.
I've never used that
Ablutions.
word.
Oh, really?
I think I will.
Yeah, ablutions.
No,
is
that's
good
the
word.
ablutions.
That covers everything.
Yes.
Going to the toilet, having a shower.
Just your morning duties.
Morning duties.
It's
Get that done
ablutions.
first.
Yes.
And then, of course, have breakfast.
Yes.
And then either do what you're doing for the day, get to work, or you do chores around the house. But
Yes.
essentially that's it. Same every morning. Even if you have the latest night, you still get up at the same time every morning.
Still
and
do
when
your
you do the
ablutions.
same routine, then that's it. You forgot about the day before in terms of, am I that tired? You don't lay in bed wallowing. You just get out, do it every morning at the same time. Then every day starts the same.
Oh, no, I lay in bed wallowing. That's no doubt about that. The alarm goes off. Gwen gets up. She makes me a cup of tea. I'm still asleep. Wakes me up. Says there's a cup of tea on the bench. And that's how I start my day. Yeah.
It's just a family show.
Hey!
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
There it is.
Yes. It is. It's not after dark yet.
It's after wine, so whatever.
So the podcast version is we get up and have a cup
Gotta
of
work
coffee.
some things out.
Cup of coffee. We have some coffee, and we read the paper, and then we were up around 5ish or so. And,
Up.
Well done.
5:30, and we do things until we are ready to get 6:20. We normally ready to go for walks, and then we go for walks. Walk for how many 1,000 million steps, and then meet people for coffee and things like that. We come back and have breakfast. So have breakfast out. But so we go up early and get things done.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we fucking do.
From the word go, because
Things have got to be done.
life's too short. Yeah,
Mate, I'm very simple, mate. I have all of my shit prepared the night before. I wake up, have the coffee. I like to sit down and enjoy the coffee, reflect on what's going to happen for the morning whilst I'm enjoying my coffee.
How's your coffee prepared?
Well, Pete has shouted out and suggested I need to tighten it a little bit and reduce the pour. I know how to reduce the pour, though. However,
I would put another half a teaspoon into your mix.
Yes.
I would
But I can't.
put it on tighter. Well, if you can.
I can't.
Okay. It needs just a little bit more.
No, it as per instructed, it actually has the 21 grams required.
Anyway, just looking at that pour, which is how I judge it.
I would
it
suggest
needs
I
half
need
a
to press it a
teaspoon.
little bit harder.
It needs to be pressed harder. It needs to be put on harder, and you need to cut it half.
Well, I think through pressing on harder will shorten the amount of time that
just stop it. Just stop it.
Because you're a bloody coffee expert.
Well, what I want you to do, just do this for me, just quickly. Just suit me. Put it under, right? Half of the way, take that out and put another cup under, and then taste that second half. I want you to taste that second half and then go back and taste that first half. The second half will be so bitter.
Yeah.
And you're adding the bitter.
Yeah, my setup's different. I'll be interested to see how it operates just by tightening it and having a little bit more push.
It's too much.
You might so when we go, Helen, I have cold brew when I get up. Helen has an espresso. Then we
cold brew overnight though.
I cold brew, yeah, and then we have Helen have 2 half-strength long blacks out, and I'll have 2 double shots with either ristrettos or if they can do
the ristretto is that's what I'm trying to ask you to do. The ristretto is the first part of the pour. That is the best bit. Leave the rest. It seems like counterintuitive, but we're going to make it stronger by putting more in. But all you're putting in is bitterness. Just do 2 cups and then taste the second one. You'll be surprised how bitter that second half is, you know.
Yeah, but I try and, so wherever we go, I try and educate them to tell them what I really want.
Ask for the ristretto. Ask for the
double shot ristretto with a little teeny bit of,
it's
just
like
a bit of milk. There's only a bit of milk and not too much. Just to give it that slight sweetness.
You know that essence, you know, when you put essence in, you put 3 drops of vanilla essence and it tastes like vanilla.
Yeah.
That's what espresso is. Espresso is an essence and you want to just extract the essence because espresso or coffee beans also have a thing called tannic acid. They're built naturally into the bean. It's in the bean to stop the insects from coming and eating it.
And that tastes like shit.
That is mostly in the shell. And the shell breaks down after it's been under pressure and heat for long enough, it will break down. But in the early part, the best part of the coffee is extracted in the ristretto. Get that out, and that's your coffee.
I'll have a double shot ristretto with a little teeny bit of froth milk.
Yes, please.
Full cream milk.
Beautiful.
That's it.
That is the way to have. That is the way to have coffee.
Whoever it comes. I'm pretty basic.
Or put 3 sugars in, and then it doesn't matter. 3 sugars.
Last question, gentlemen.
Yes.
Are you ready? And this is this might be interesting. What is your thoughts on AI?
I am hesitant on seeing where it's going to end up, and I really do hope the world comes up with the standard when it comes to AI, how it's dealt with.
Because it's the next generation that gets it.
That's right. Oh yeah, it's the next generation, but I do fear if it is allowed to sort of become self-aware.
Then we're Terminator 2, maybe.
Well, yeah, you can sort of go down that line, but I just hope there's going to be enough protocols in place and countries all come to a standard when it comes to what is classed as AI, how far it's allowed to develop. But I know damn well it won't.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. How do you get every other country to
Because once you can
agree?
weaponise it, it's going to be the world beater.
Where are you at with AI, Pete?
Well, we use AI every day when we turn on our Google Maps and travel to work, and it tells us that there's a roadblock, so go this way. That's artificial intelligence. That's incredibly helpful. The freeway's locked, so go down this side street, you'll get to work a lot quicker. That's artificial intelligence working for us. So artificial intelligence is taking mass data and making meaning from it in a very rapid time. So I can see that you can't stop it. It's going to come because there's no regulation on it. Nothing's going to, even if there is regulation on it, no one's going to stop you from doing it. So it's coming. Artificial intelligence coming. I think just my advice to my students is move up in your career into highly creative roles. The human species now, if you want to have relevance in the future, you must be in a highly creative or a highly evaluative role. The roles of the lower level roles are all going to be taken by robots and artificial intelligence. So make sure your day involves...
That's across all...
Or make sure your job involves making evaluative decisions or coming up with creative, because those two things are still out of the reach of robots and artificial intelligence for now, and so that's why I'm saying that as humans we need to move up. We can't just do the robot stuff or the artificial intelligence stuff. We've got to move up into that creative, evaluative space where humans do excel. That ability to make an evaluation. Yes, Jonny, but what's the best way of doing this? Only a Jonny knows that. Artificial intelligence probably won't know that for quite a long time.
Not yet.
My view.
I'll give you 2 answers. The first, when you said AI, the first answer I had was I preferred natural way to turkey baster, but then...
Excuse me?
I prefer the natural way to turkey baster.
Bad dad jokes just keep coming.
Artificial insemination. I thought he was saying...
Oh, right.
I got it all wrong.
All right, okay.
God knows I'm always going to get things wrong because
You see the grey side of everything.
You've seen other places.
I see the 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. But anyway, but if we were to answer in line with you guys, I've got to tell you that, I think that it's amazingly... I think it's amazing the potential in that, but I think also that as you whatever AI can do, it can't replace the human soul and the idea of the metaphysical and the idea that we're so complex creatures. We have this idea of a soul and of a being that can never be artificially recreated. And so no matter how much the algorithms are and things like that, no matter how much we look at all these things, we can't recreate that sense of wonderment and metaphysical other world. It's not just a set of algorithms, not just a thing. We think in the extreme abstract. We think in the way that no one else can, and that's what makes us people, and that's what's helped us advance to the way we are, is because of our complex understanding of something else other than us, something bigger than us, whatever it is. But we have this complex understanding that we're more than just we are, and no matter how AI goes, it'll never.
It won't be R.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
Never do that. Never have a soul. No matter how.
I'm excitedly nervous.
Yeah, that's the right way to be.
That's a good way of summing it up.
Yeah, that's probably the best. That's probably the best summation of all of us.
Yeah. I'm excitedly nervous.
Yeah.
And that's it, boys. 2 hours.
There we go. Whew. How's that?
40, if I don't know what to look, 48 minutes, 45 seconds, 47.
Good effort.
Seconds. Incredible effort. Made food and cheese got smashed. The wine was fucking delicious.
That was delicious. Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much.
Afterwards, if we're interested.
Little drop, yeah. I'll leave one with you because.
Don't forget the microphones there.
Hey! But we got the Elliot Shiraz. Elliot Merlot.
Named after your son.
Yeah,
so it should be.
And we didn't get a chance. Is it off air now?
No, we're still on. It's not off until it's off.
I've got to give a plug to. Okay, so I'm a in there for the long haul person,
Yes.
And so.
Well, there's not a lot of that, but whatever's left, you're in there for.
For the three of us, I bought 5 bottles of wine. So
perfect. That's the right amount.
Even though I've got a comp tomorrow, but Johnny's my coach. Yeah. He said
tomorrow's
tomorrow. And so the next wine we've got is a Elliot Merlot, which is from Tobin Estate, because I picked a local producer. Stanthorpe wines are amazing. We went to Stanthorpe last year. Hadn't been there for years, and I thought Stanthorpe's like the backwoods of wherever, but it was amazing. And Tobin Estate was an amazing winery, and there's this ex-pharmacist who has this passion for wine. He's been across the whole world, going to every major winery and drinking every major wine in the whole world, and I was privileged to speak to him and his winemaker, and they've got amazing wines. And also because it's called Elliot, so I bought the Merlot as another thing, and then the last wine I have is a Kaleski Old Vine Grenache. So we talked about the St Henry buying wines all across the place for St Henry. Well, Grange do the same thing. So Grange used to buy wines from one of the estates, Greenock Estate. Kaleski supplied Grange Hermitage grapes. Now they grow their own stuff, and they have their premium wines called Jose Gore. And but the Kaleski Old Vine Grenache is 75-year-old vines that have been there forever, and they're biodynamically grown, 15.5% alcohol. Jonny and I had a conspiracy to try and get Pete pissed by giving them their 15.5% early in the piece, but doesn't look like it's going to happen, and he's going pretty well.
What happens is, mate, we give him the 15.5% later, and he gives us the real story after.
And you get the real story.
Bullshit.
I don't think I'll go to jail for what I've said today, so that's a win for me.
My dad was an ex-copper. He said, if you're going to kill a pig, you tell 2 people, you and the pig.
Yeah.
Or you kill a sheep.
And I think if I could and I would, I'm going to leave it at that. If you can kill a pig, you keep between you and the pig.
Yeah.
Always.
That's how you fucking kill a pig.
Yeah.
You never be afraid of the person that threatens you. Yeah. That's what you've got to know. The person that threatens you is not the person you want to worry about. It's the person that you've wronged that says nothing.
Nothing, exactly.
That is the person, because that's the person only telling the pig and themselves.
Yeah.
The person that's blasting it out there, you never need to worry about them. They are not your threat.
No walk.
It's the one that you know that you've done wrong and they're saying nothing. That's the one that's actually planning.
There's a look And
That's the one that's doing it. Yeah. So never be afraid of the guy that's threatening you, you know, because that's a stupid thing to do, to actually come out because you're the first person on the list of the FBI or the police or whatever.
Yeah.
So that guy is not to worry. Yeah.
That's it, crew.
Something I learnt from Chinatown.
Yep. Podcasting.
There you go.
PBs, boys.
PBs, okay. It's good to be part of a PB.
Shut it down.
Shut it down. Turn it off so we